The Duke announces that he is getting a divorce and then gives the document to his wife to read. The main character reads that the marriage between Raymond Vaughn and Erin de Brescia is considered officially invalid by mutual agreement of the parties. The most noble lady in the empire is Erin von Lovensberg. She came from a once noble family and became a duchess by torturing an unfortunate girl in love with a duke. She is a decent girl who shamelessly committed an act of infidelity under the guise of a good wife. This is the story of the famous villain and her return to life under the name Erin de Brescia. In her youth, the main character dreamed of living like in a fairy tale with a happy ending, in which the unfortunate lady marries the prince, and they live happily ever after. When the girl came of age, a messenger from the Imperial palace came and announced that His Majesty wished the young lady Brescia to become the bride of the Duke of Levensberg. Hearing this, the young lady thought that her dream had come true. Duke of Levensberg, son of the late heir and the eldest grandson of the emperor, a capable and educated fine swordsman with a pleasant appearance. He is a good man in all respects and the heir to the throne. Erin's father asks the messenger why His Majesty has chosen his daughter. The man replies that there is currently no lady of noble birth in the empire of the appropriate age. All ladies of the young lady Brescia's age are of a lineage lower than that of a marquis. After the decline of the marquisate, her parents, having taken on the debt burden, were unable to attend social events. The messenger reports that in exchange for consent, His Highness promised financial support to the marquise. The proposal caused bad rumors in high circles. Hearing this, the main character agrees to become the prince's wife, believing the messenger's words. She was convinced that a happy marriage awaited her. The girl thinks that if their marriage works out, her family will be in the black, and her parents will finally be able to live normally. Raymond says that he is honored to marry such a beautiful young lady. When the main character first saw him, she thought that he seemed like a very nice and kind person to her, but not a day passed before her dream was shattered. And on the long-awaited first night, Raymond announces that he is not going to spend the night with her as her husband. And then he claims that she must understand that this engagement is just a formality. The Duke left the girl alone with her thoughts and never returned. Later, the girl learned that the Duke had had a mistress from a lower noble family since his teenage years. It was no secret in high society that he had promised to make his beloved an empress. When these rumors reached the emperor, he immediately arranged the engagement. However, the girl learned the truth too late, and for the next 9 years she did not feel jealousy and did not touch her husband's mistress, and she was not wasteful or arrogant. As Duchess Erin tried to avoid things that could discredit her honor, however, wanting to divorce the Duke accused her of infidelity. Did nothing wrong in the eyes of the public? The main character suddenly became a real villain, and she understood that even if she had been the first to express a desire for a divorce, she would not have been able to say anything, since the engagement was the will of His Majesty. Raymond turns to his wife and says that she can cry, she can beg the emperor, but nothing will help her, and he does not want rumors to spread and claims that he does not care about her suffering. The lady says that she understands, and then asks if she should sign. The Duke heard this and was surprised. Erin says that if he wants to marry his mistress, he will have to renovate the palace. Then she says that she sold everything that could be sold, and that is why her room is now empty. The Duke was surprised to hear this. The main character explains that his next wife would either throw out or replace the furniture when she arrived at the palace, and that is why she sold everything this morning. The girl asks him why he's so surprised. Then she claims that he told her to do things the way she wanted, and that's why she did it. The Duke explains that since a deal has been made between them, she certainly cannot count on a dowry, and then asks what she plans to do with this trifle. Erin tells him that for 9 years he didn't care what she did. Now that they're getting a divorce, he suddenly cares what she's going to do. At this time, the main character thought about what he calls a trifle for her family is a fortune. And at this time, she thought about how she dreams of opening a cafe, and this is her dream, which she buried long ago. The girl understands that when she thinks about it, she begins to feel the pleasant, sweet aroma of round, ruddy, rich profiteroles. The main character remembers that her mother used to make these sweets, and when she was still a child, she would really wait for her mother to make them, and after trying a piece, she would tell her mother that they were so tender and seemed to melt in her mouth. The mother tells the girl that she will tell her a secret, and then she says that members of their family always have a stronger sense of taste than members of the Imperial family, and she is like her daughter, blood of her blood, and she too can bake such magnificent cakes. A little girl tells her mother that when she grows up, she will open a cafe and fill the shelves with delicious cakes. At this time, the main character reflects on the fact that she will never return to this palace, and this house has never become hers in all these years. And then she looked at the chandelier and thought that they would give a good price for it. The Duchess saw her maid crying, and then asked why Melly begged for forgiveness from her ladyship. Upon hearing this, the woman claimed that she was no longer her ladyship, and then suggested that she be addressed as Erin. The mistress thanks the maid for her faithful service, and then says that she will miss her bringing her tea and coffee, and says that Melly is very caring. The maid apologizes for her insolence and then asks if she could take her with her and rehire her as a maid in her house. Hearing this, the main character thought that she didn't know what to do. A couple of years ago, coffee began to be shipped from southern ports throughout the country, and coffee soon became the most popular drink among the upper class. And usually, tea was prepared by maids and coffee by servants. Melly was responsible for serving drinks to the main character. She was also her only friend in this estate. Erin reflects on the fact that she would really like to take her in. After all, she understands that she will definitely be useful, but in her financial situation, she only has enough money to open a coffee shop. Suddenly, the senior maid, Mrs. Brennan, enters the room to the Marchioness and asks if the lady is ready yet. And then she claims that they are waiting for her because the room needs to be cleaned. The Duchess thought that the maid did not even knock, and Miss Brennan had always been hostile to her. The head maid reports that the Duchess did the unthinkable during the banquet, and since she grew up in a poor family, her low origins cannot be hidden no matter what title she holds. Miss Bremond wonders what could have prompted her fair one to marry this one and entrust her with the Duchess's wing, since she always has to run after her and correct her. The main character knows that the senior maid has always been on the Count's side, and she introduced him to his new mistress so that the Bren family would gain more influence in society through the Duke. At this time, Erin thought that she had suffered enough over the years and all for the sake of her parents, but now she had to put an end to it. The girl recalls that her father was greatly offended by the neglect she experienced in this estate, and he volunteered to participate in the war in order to bring her glory and respect in the empire. Erin's father brought victory to the empire, but he himself died in the war, and her mother died sometime later from a serious illness. And before her death, she apologized for the fact that because of her, her daughter had to suffer. Standing near the graves of her parents, the main character thought that she refused to continue this miserable existence. Meanwhile, Erin turns to the maid and asks if she's come in to hurry her out. Then she tells her not to worry because she's already leaving. The main character asks Miss Brennan if she realized that she was moving out. The head maid turns to the maid and, screaming, asks what she is doing here. The girl explains that she has simply come to say goodbye to her grace, Lady Erin. Hearing these words, the head maid slapped the girl in the face and then called her trash and threatened to get out of there. At this point, the main character thought that it was the maid who was behaving this way in her presence, and then she turns to Miss Brannan and asks if she thinks she is powerless, and then she tells her to immediately pack her things and leave the estate. The maid asks how it is, and the young mistress asks what has been wrong with her hearing lately. Then she offers to clean her ears and smiles. Erin claims that Miss Brennan has been fired. However, the maid insists that my lady is forgetting herself, and then asks who gave her the right to give orders. The main character says that she knows that she is no longer a countess, but the ring still belongs to her, and it is not just a ring, but the seal of the Empress. The Emperor has an imperial seal, and with it he approves important state documents, and the affairs of the imperial palace are conducted with the seal of the Empress. Erin reports that the Empress has long since passed away, and that Raymond, the Crown Prince's mother, died in childbirth, and so, at the moment, she is the most influential woman in the Imperial palace. The head maid says that the seal was given only together with the title of Countess. The lady claims that she is mistaken and then explains that the Empress's seal is entrusted to her by the Emperor himself, and this does not depend on her title, and he ordered the affairs of the Imperial palace to be conducted, and therefore dismissal will be her last decree. The maid says that she can do what she wants, and then says that when the new countess comes into her own, she will return her position to her. However, Aaron claims that she is fired before then and then asks if she should wait 4 months. While His Majesty went to war, Raymond immediately rushed to formalize the divorce. The lady explains that it is a long process, and even if she returns to her position, she will not get away with it. Aaron thinks that it will take the Earl a long time to get His Majesty's consent to the marriage and then arrange the wedding. Then she claims that Miss Brannan will not get the job for a long time and will thus be out of work for a couple of years. The maid addresses Lady Aaron. However, the young lady says that she is divorced and is now the Marquise de Brazia. Then she asks how she, the wife of a knight, dares to address her like that. The head maid turns to Melly and, screaming, says that she will deal with her again when she is rehired. Hearing this, Aaron objects and says that she won't figure it out since Melly is going with her. The main character invites Melly to go with her and says that she will open a pastry shop, and the work will be harder than here, but she will be paid twice as much as pastry chefs get. Aaron turns to her maid and says that she wants Melly to work for her. Upon hearing this, the girl is delighted and then says that she agrees and thanks her mistress. At this time, the main character thought that she could not afford to pay her salary, but she understood that it was better to take her away from here because this viper would not let her live anyway. The young mistress hugs her maid and at this time thinks that she at least saved someone. Aaron tells Melly to pack her things and tells her that she will wait for her. The main character reflects on the fact that she thought that by losing her title, she would lose everything in this life. After all, she clung to this state and this name, and thought that this was the only thing she had left. But when she drew the last stroke of the signature, put it in the pen, she felt freedom. At this time, the Count remembers that Aaron said that she would open a pastry shop and thought that she had gone crazy because of the divorce, and he also remembers when he first saw her, and she told him that it was an honor for her to see him, His Highness. The young master reflects that if the emperor had not forced another wife on her, he would not have treated her like this after 9 years of marriage. Not a single quarrel, not a single complaint. And she has become completely different. The butler enters the room and announces that His Majesty the Emperor has sent the young master an urgent letter, and he assumes that His Majesty has already received the news of his divorce, and then asks if he will read it. Raymond argues that there is no point, since he knows it probably says to call off the divorce and bring Aaron home. Hearing this, the servant does not understand what he will do when His Majesty returns, and then he says that this cake is from Lady Serena. The young gentleman says that he doesn't need it and offers to get rid of it. Melly happily asks Milady where they are going. The main character replies that the first thing to do is take care of housing. The lady asks the gentleman if he has a house with living rooms for 2 ladies and a space for a restaurant, and as cheaply as possible. The man replies that he has just such a house and the building is on Beltro Street. And then he says that there are a lot of shops around and it is quiet and peaceful, and so he thinks that it is the perfect place for her woman's business. The maid reports that this place is mainly inhabited by minor officials and rich merchants. The man explains that the owner of this cafe is in a hurry to move to the province and therefore sells the cafe at a low price, and the furniture is also included in the purchase. At this time, the main character thought that the cafe was in decline. Melly saw that there was a backyard with a garden behind the doors and informed her mistress about it. When Aaron saw the garden, she thought it was very beautiful and had a peaceful view. And on the ground floor, there is a living room, dining room, and kitchen, and she was worried that there was no place to cook in the cafe, but now she knows that she can cook in the house. The man says that the bedroom is on the 2nd floor and then asks if my lady likes it. At this time, the main character thought that the lower districts of the city would be best for a cafe, but she understands that the rent is more expensive there and that this district is quite enough for the two of them. And then she gives money and says that she is buying this cafe. The inside of the house was very dirty, and the maid suggests to the mistress that she sweep everything. Hearing this, the main character suggests that she not worry since she is no longer a duchess, and she tells her to get to work and says that she will clean. Melly announces that it's already lunchtime and then asks what to make. Erin takes lemon juice and mixes it with butter, and then announces that she will get lemon curd. She pours the whole mixture into a pre-baked pan and then spreads beaten meringue on top. The girl put it in the oven and baked it at a moderate temperature until the meringue turned golden. A few minutes later, a sweet lemon meringue pie emerged from the oven. When the maid entered the room, she announced that she had finished cleaning and then asked what that smell was. The main character says that she is doing well and then asks if she wants to try. Melly tells her mistress that she really is a great cook. Then she says she thought it was just something people said about their family. Erin says it's lunch and hopes she likes lemons. The maid replies that she loves all fruits, and she really liked the most delicate melting cream, the refreshing spicy taste of lemon, and finally the delicate crispy meringue. The girl says with delight that it is simply fantastic. And probably this is what is served on the Imperial throne, and this is the best pie she has ever tasted. Melly, I wonder how my lady learned to cook so well. The lady replies that her mother taught her, who was very fond of lemons from the Arden Mountains. Mother said that this fruit is a symbol of suffering and troubles, and she liked this lemon matter pie, and she often made it for her daughter. The maid doesn't understand why her mother thought that way, and then she claims that lemons are a very common fruit, and she doesn't understand why lemon is a symbol of suffering and misfortune. The main character remembers her mother, who told her that it was too sour, and then asks her daughter if she noticed how the sourness of lemon in cakes becomes pleasant and sweet. Erin says lemon pie is a symbol of overcoming adversity, making it the perfect dessert for her right now. Milady says she prepared it in secret in the Imperial Palace, and she says she shared it only once and only with one person, and then she remembers that they didn't even have time to say goodbye. At this time, a young man with black hair looks at his city and says that it has not been a capital for a long time. The head maid came into Siren's room and said that she had been working in this castle for 10 years, and this witch just went and fired her. The young lady suggests that the maid should not be sad. Hearing this, the maid says that Lady Serena will soon become a duchess, and truly, this is her only consolation, and then she says that the palace of the Empress is much more befitting for her. The Duke's mistress, Serena von Brennan, says she heard Erin is planning to open a cafe. The maid claims she has found a location and has even ordered the ingredients, then asks Milady if they should intervene. The blonde lady suggests leaving it. The head maid says it would be a stain on his lordship's reputation, since his disgraced ex-wife opened a cafe and became successful. Serena says she doesn't know anything about the restaurant business. Then she asks if a cafe can do without coffee. The young lady was thinking about the fact that in the Imperial Palace the walls have ears, and she understands that now that the Duchess is banished, she wonders if she will become the new Duchess, and if His Majesty will allow it. Lady Serena remembers that her father was a minor aristocrat who bought his title with money, and she is now a duchess, and she knew how much contempt she was held in even after her father received the title of duke. The emperor's mistress understands that she was trying to attract the duke's attention, and that she most needed the attention of a man who could one day make her an empress, but she understands that this is all empty. Suddenly, Serena saw His Majesty, and then she greeted him, and at that time she thought that if she got him, her power would be unlimited. The young lady tells the Duke that there is a ball at the Flynn estate, and then asks if he knew about it. The gentleman replies that he heard, and she asks if he will agree to go with her. Suddenly, a guy with black hair comes up to them and addresses the gentleman, calling him brother. Calix reports that he has not seen him for a long time. Raymond says that he thought his brother was with His Majesty. The black-haired gentleman explains that it's not very fun there, and that's why he decided to drop in on his brother. The guy says that Grandpa is always in a bad mood, and it's downright hard to be around him. At this time, Serena thought about the fact that Archduke Ruthen had returned, and he was Raymond's only younger brother and next in line to the throne. The Grand Ducal House of Reuten were distant relatives of the emperors, but they enjoyed the status of members of the imperial family. The late grandee, Calix's father, died saving the prince dear to his heart. In memory of him, the prince adopted his only son, Calix. Serena turns to His Highness and greets him, then informs him that they have not seen him in the capital for a long time. However, the young gentleman does not pay attention to the girl, but asks the Duke how his wife Raymond is doing. The Duke does not understand what he means and asks about it. Calix explains that it is natural, since they lived together for 9 years, and now he does not see her. And he says that his grandfather also asked about her. Raymond replies that if he is so curious, then let him come and look for her himself, and then he leaves. Serena asks His Highness to wait for her. However, the gentleman replies that he is busy today. Calix became curious about what his brother did with his wife. At this time, the main character spends her time in the kitchen and bakes macaroons. The girl reflects on the fact that the pastel pink macaroon with strawberry flavor, the pleasant beige macaroon with vanilla flavor, and the light, fragrant lilac macaroon with blueberry powder and mint green with pistachios. Erin remembers that she hasn't made them for a long time, but this time she did great, and then she tells her maid that she made macarons. Melly informs him that Lady Erin is just in time, as she has just made coffee and invites them to drink together. The Marquise thanks the maid for her work, and then offers to treat herself to sweet macaroons with freshly brewed coffee. The main character says that the girl's coffee is always the best. Hearing this, Melly thanks her and smiles, and then she says that her lady's macarons are simply fantastic. After all, the soft, crispy crust melts in your mouth along with the cream, and the sweetness and aroma are simply enchanting, and with strong coffee, perfection itself. Erin smiles and says that they are made for business together, and the maid agrees with her, and then she says that they have a display case and suggests putting the dummies there. The maid explains that real desserts spoil quickly, and they will go and make dummies out of sugar mastic so that everyone can see them. The main character heard this, agreed with her, and said that just as the studio puts its best works on display, they will do the same with their cakes. And she said that she had a great idea. Melly asks the lady when the coffee beans are delivered and explains that she used the last ones. The main character replies that they should be delivered today. Suddenly, the girls heard a knock at the door and thought that the suppliers had arrived. When they opened the door, the men announced that they had brought their order. Then they said that they had to pay 300 gold pieces for one box. Hearing this, the main character thought that coffee is an expensive pleasure and Viscount Arndt has a monopoly on the sale of coffee, and she understands that she can't do anything. Erin knows it's expensive, but coffee only comes in every few months and they have to get it while it lasts. Madame says it'll last them a long time. When the main character opened the box, she was surprised because she saw the grains were crooked and eaten by beetles. After seeing this, the girl understands that these grains are lost. Erin asks the supplier why the coffee is in such a sorry state. After all, she understands that the price is for a quality product. The man replies that his business will deliver, and if she doesn't like it, then she doesn't have to take it. And then he says that the next delivery will be in 2 months. Melly, confused, asks Milady what they will do, and she wonders if they will ask for the money back. The supplier says they don't do returns. The maid is surprised to hear this. At this time, the main character reflects on the fact that they have always had quality grain, and she understands that anything could happen while it lies in the warehouse. However, she has a feeling that they sort out the spoiled grain and send it to some addresses and leave the quality ones for others. Melly asks, surprised, what they should do. Then she claims that without coffee, they won't even be able to open. The Marquise takes the girl by the hands and calms her down, then says that she will sort everything out. Erin tells the suppliers to wait, then tells them she will pay them extra and asks if they could deliver the boxes to the address provided. Glacier Estate was a place of entertainment for the aristocracy, where they played cards. At this place, the main character decided to go in. At the door, she was met by the butler who informed her that he was escorting Milady. While in the mansion, Erin thought about what she had heard about gambling in this place, but she was surprised because this house was richer than they said. The Marquise turns to the gentleman and says that she needs Viscount Arndt. The man says that he is in the second hall on the second floor. Arndt family trades with the South and has a monopoly on the sale of coffee, fruits, and some other exotic goods. But coffee brought them the greatest income. Thanks to the fabulous wealth of his family, Jacques Arndt spent his time in endless revelry in brothels and other entertainment venues. The main character knocked on the door, but suddenly she heard a cry about the fact that the gentleman doesn't care. The girl asks if Monsieur Jacques recognizes her. Seeing the Duchess, the man asks what she is doing at his place. The lady explains that she has come to visit. Arndt claims that the Duchess is no longer a Duchess, but Madame Marquise, and asks if he said it right, and then says that if the lady came to play cards, she is on the wrong floor, since the players are on the first floor. Aaron explained that she is not here for that, but about the goods that his company delivered to her. Hearing this, the man asks what is wrong with him, and at that time he thought that even if she does not like it, she will not be able to do anything, since the Duke has thrown her out in disgrace. The Marquise says that she wants to say that the goods are simply beyond all praise, and then she says that she delivered them as a gift to the Imperial Palace. Viscount Arndt heard this, broke his glass and screamed, claiming that she had ordered coffee for his café. Aaron agrees with the monsieur, and then says that she has changed her mind and decided that black tea would be much more complimentary to the desserts. Hearing this, the monsieur is surprised, because he understands what kind of coffee he sent for the Marchioness. The main character asks the Viscount if he sent her a spoiled product. Then she says that she paid 300 gold pieces for a box of high-quality coffee and shows the payment document. Arndt heard this and pondered that he thought the empty-headed chick was trying to outplay him. Then he said that her tricks were inappropriate. The gentleman explains that if His Highness receives this coffee and expresses dissatisfaction to him, then he will blame it on his subordinates and simply apologize, and he will forgive him. And then he comes closer to the Marquise and says that he will agree with her and therefore will pay compensation. The Viscount claims that this will be her last purchase. Then he says that she will be considered an unreliable client. Hearing this, the main character thought that he easily threatens people, taking advantage of his position. Aaron says he is right because His Highness is merciful and will forgive him such a mistake. Then she asks if he has thought about the other merchants. The Marquise reports that this incident will also be revealed, as he who owns the coffee market exclusively sells garbage, and then asks if he thinks that none of the merchants will want to displace him. The main character looks at the confused Viscount and says that she sees that he is confused, and then claims that she understands that he is not used to hearing complaints about quality. At this time, Aaron thought about Tom, that she would not dare to say anything and make herself laugh. However, at this time, she realizes that this is in the past. The Marquise claims that if he wants her to keep this incident a secret, she suggests that he send her a normal product, and she says that after that she will send a letter to the Imperial Palace asking for the return of the box of missing coffee. Viscount Arndt agrees with the lady and says that he will send her high-quality coffee for 300 gold pieces. However, the Marquise objects and offers 600. Hearing this, the gentleman is surprised, and the main character explains that he must compensate for the damage and the penalty. The gentleman, crying out, asks why twice as much. The Marquise explains that if this does not suit him, then she will do as she intended, and then she says goodbye to him. Suddenly, the Viscount stops the main character and says that everything will be as she said. The Marquise says that she admires his foresight and then leaves and considers herself the victor. As Aaron walks down the hallway, she thinks that as soon as she gets back, she'll tell Melly about this. Lost in her thoughts, the girl suddenly felt someone touching her hand. The stranger said that she had a nice face, and then asked how much it cost. Aaron tells him to let her go immediately. Hearing this, the man asks why she is so stubborn. At this time, the main character thought that she could not believe how someone like him was allowed in here. The stranger tells her not to upset him. Hearing this, the Marquise could not restrain herself and then kicked him in the leg with all her might. Meanwhile, the man felt pain in his leg and said that she was a sad bitch. At this time, the main character thought that he would not leave her alone, and therefore she would have to reveal her identity. Suddenly, His Highness enters the room. Seeing him, the main character thought that she knew that they would cross paths somewhere, but she doesn't understand why he came here, since this is one of the worst places for a chance meeting. The Marquise greeted His Highness, and the man explains that he was just talking to the lady and was rude. Raymond offers to apologize to the lady. Hearing this, the stranger asks for forgiveness from milady, and at that time, Aaron thought that after what he said to the future emperor, he was afraid to behave like that. His Highness orders the stranger to leave. Hearing this, the man thanks him and then apologizes again. The gentleman says he didn't expect to see her in this place. The Marchioness replies that she didn't know about his hobby before, and she wonders if Lady Serena knows about it. Raymond says that if she doesn't have enough to live on, she could ask him for alimony, and then he says that she doesn't need to stoop to such a low level. The woman was surprised to hear this and then asked him if he thought she had come here to gamble. Then she said that before he jumped to conclusions, she would explain that she had come here to visit about the cafe. His Highness asks if she really wants to do this. Aaron replies that she does. Raymond says that he knows she's upset about Serena. Then he says that she doesn't have to go to such lengths to spite him. Hearing this, the Marquise asks what that means. The gentleman asks her to admit that she started her enterprise because of Serena. At this time, the girl thought that he did not understand that everything in this world did not revolve around him. Aaron remembers meeting Siren, and when she went, she pushed her away reluctantly, and at that time she thought that she was a small aristocrat in debt, like silk. And then the maids reported to the Crown Prince that his wife was oppressing Serena again. The main character understands that from the very beginning there was no place for her in his heart. Aaron approaches His Highness and informs him that she wants to open a cafe and that Serena has nothing to do with it. The Marquise explains that this is her long-standing dream, and she has decided to make it come true and has nothing more to say. The lady says that they rented a small cafe and the simple happiness of living where one wants and with the one loves. And then she says that he will never understand this. And then she says that if this is all, then she leaves and says goodbye to the gentleman. However, Raymond stops her and says that they did not have a relationship, but he wants her not to be poor and then suggests that she tell him and he will give her money so that she can live in comfort. The young gentleman says that he is ready to help, and not only with this. Hearing this, the main character thought that 9 years ago she would have melted from such care like a fool, but at this time the Marquise understands that there is no place for him in her heart, and then she says that she does not need money, and she hopes that they will not see each other again. And so she asks him to stop trying to poke his nose into her business. When Raymond was left alone, he thought that he did not understand what was wrong with this girl. The butler asks His Highness if he is lost, and the gentleman replies that everything is fine and then leaves. Raymond asks the man if he has delivered the gold to them. The knight replies that the weapons will be delivered within a month. His Highness claims that he is counting on him and suggests that everything should go without delay. Aaron thought that today had been a very hard day and she was tired, and when she entered her cafe, she saw that it was sparkling clean. The Marquise informs the maid that she has already arrived and has managed to arrange for coffee. Melly greets the lady and informs her that they have a visitor. The main character saw Ines and was surprised, and then she says that he went to the south on the orders of His Majesty, and she does not understand how he ended up here. The guy explains that he came back right after the end of the war was declared, and he found out what happened to her. Hearing this, Aaron was surprised and asked what he was talking about. Ines explains that he should have told her the truth back then, and then said that if he had stayed, she wouldn't have had to go through all this. Ines von Löfnen is the head of the Order of the Holy Sword, and he is her childhood friend. The main character remembers her childhood and how they played, and she also remembers that on her birthday Ines made her a cake, and when she tried a piece, she thanked the guy because the cake was very tasty. The boy announces that he will make her a cake for every birthday. However, Aaron realizes that he was not destined to fulfill this promise, since she heard that he was going to study at a military academy. Ines states that he wants to become a knight and then states that he will definitely write to her. Hearing this, the girl says that she understands him and she will miss him. The main character remembers that when her friend turned 16, he was finally able to realize his dream, and she moved to the Marquise's estate, and they could no longer see each other. 13 years later, Eren learned that the Order of the Holy Sword had a new leader. Young ladies lined up just to talk to him. After all, many ladies understood that he was still a bachelor, and therefore each of them wanted to become his wife. At this time, the main character thought that she could not get used to this estate. Ainz approached her and greeted her, and then said that he had not seen her for a long time. Eren knows that Ainz has returned to her life as a war hero. The Marquise says that he has already been appointed leader of the order, and then praises him. The young gentleman explains that the higher-ups simply considered him suitable for the position. However, the main character understands that at court it is impossible to obtain such a position without connections and pedigree. A good childhood friend and the son of a simple knight, this position must have cost him a great deal of effort. Ainz says that they've been talking about nothing but him all this time, and then asks how she's doing and tells her that he's heard it all. At this point, Eren thought that he probably wanted to tell her about the Duke's affair with Serena. Then she said that she didn't expect the rumors to spread so quickly and reassured him that there was nothing to worry about. Ainz apologizes for not being able to come to her mother's funeral. He tells her that he wants to visit her grave this time. He then asks if it was difficult for her. Hearing this, the main character thought that it was unusual for her to hear not dirty gossip about her life as a duchess, but the question of caring for her beloved. The girl tells him that she is strong and has coped with everything, and then thanks him for his concern. Eren reports that she thought that there would never be another person in her life who cared about her, and at that time she thought that his shining kindness and lilac eyes brought her back to her childhood, and the bright nostalgia warmed her soul. From then on, she saw Ainz from time to time and could talk to him about things she could not reveal to anyone else. They met openly in public, and no one could suspect anything. The Marquise thinks that she still needs to be careful, because rumors could hurt them both, and she thinks that maybe Ainz won't have a girlfriend because of her. The main character thought that it was time for her to go back, since the ball was already close to the end. Suddenly, Eren saw Ainz, who was wounded and lying on the ground unconscious. The Marquise saw blood on his shirt, and then smelled the unnatural, terrible smell of the red liquid, and thought that it was Lucifer's poison. This poison is a terrifying, disgusting monster, and if the antidote is not applied in time, the entire body will very soon be eaten away by gangrene. Eren sat next to the guy and thought about how sometimes he really did look bad, but she chalked it up to simple fatigue, since it turned out that she now knew what was making him feel unwell. Suddenly, the main character heard the voices of women coming towards them, and at that moment she thought that she should hide Ainz. The Marquise knew that Lucifer's poison was not contagious. However, she understood that there was a danger, and that if the infected person died, a new monster would emerge from the body. The main character understood that if the presence of this poison was discovered, he would be killed immediately, and no one would treat him out of fear. Suddenly, the guy woke up, and when he looked at his body, he realized that the girl knew everything. Eren calms him down and tells him not to be afraid and that she will take his secret to the grave. Then she asks him to be quiet and explains that people are coming towards them. Ainz claims that she cannot stay near him and suggests that they return to the palace. Hearing this, the main character objects and then asks how she can leave him alone. Suddenly, the ladies came up to them and saw Eren with Ainz. And then they were surprised, and before a minute had passed, the whole high society was buzzing about it. The Emperor turns to Eren and tells her that the Midnight Garden, the Duchess, and the Knight are hiding in the bushes. Then he says that everyone knows that her husband doesn't love her, and that Ainz is also very handsome and popular with women, and they have been friends since childhood. The girl understands that for those who like to chat, this was a real holiday. The Emperor asks the girl to explain herself. At this point, she thinks that she cannot say that Ainz has become ill because this will raise unnecessary questions. Eren explains to His Majesty that she has done nothing to bring her honor into disrepute. The Emperor announces that he is sending the leader of the Order of the Holy Sword to the south to fight, and therefore proposes to end it here. After some time, Ainz was sent to serve in the south, and after that, Crown Prince Raymond announced that he was divorcing her. At this time, the main character thought that when she remembers this, she is tormented by doubt because she understands that there are too many coincidences, and one can even think that all this was planned. Ainz explains that he doesn't remember how he got there and he didn't feel any worse, but after he drank that evening, Aaron wonders if someone got Ains drunk on purpose and went to great lengths to set up this situation, and whoever did it, it was their goal to damage her reputation. The Marquise realizes that if this is true, then it is possible that whoever did this does not even know that the knight was poisoned by Lucifer's venom, and the wound could have become painful and opened up because of the aphrodisiac added to the alcohol. Childhood friend says he came back to tell the truth and says he will come to the Duke and tell him everything because he knows she was just trying to help him, and all these rumors have damaged her reputation. Aaron assures him that this is not necessary, and then says that this incident was just an excuse for him, because she knows that the Duke wanted a divorce anyway, and that is why she herself asked him not to say a word. The main character claims that if he tells everything as it was, then there is no way back to the castle, and in the end, only he will suffer from this, and then asks if he needs it. The guy explains that he only wants to defend her honor in front of everyone. Hearing this, the girl thinks that he is insistent, and then calls him stubborn. Aaron turns to her childhood friend and tells her that she will be fine, then suggests taking a closer look around and explains that this is her new house with a cafe and she is happy. The Marquise claims that since her divorce she has felt free and a weight has been lifted off her shoulders. The lady turns to the guy and offers to tell him how he feels and how his wound is. Ains replies that he feels better because they sent him an antidote from the north, and it works. Aaron says she's glad to hear that. Then she says she wouldn't have survived his death. The main character believes that if he really needs to tell everyone the truth, she suggests doing it when he is cured. After all, she understands that then he will not be killed because of the poison. The lady tells the guy to promise, and he agrees with her, and then the girl says that they haven't seen each other for so long and that's why she wants to cook something special for him. And then Aaron went to the garden and Ains went with her. The main character asks the guy if he remembers how they made each other a cake for their 9th birthday. Ains replies that of course he remembers such things, and then claims that it is impossible to forget. The Marquise recalls that he told her that he had never had a birthday cake made for him. The guy claims that he will never forget the taste of this cake in his life. The lady explains that the cake she made for him back then, she thought it wasn't very pretty, but she was very proud of what she made because he was happy. Ains says that he is even worse because he tried to learn from her mother, but the sponge cake never rose, and so the cake turned out to be quite sad. Hearing this, the lady smiled and said that at least it was delicious. The guy says that he always dreamed of being with her, and even now he does not give up this hope. At this time, Ains thought that he wanted to show her everything that he was worthy of, and so he volunteered for the dangerous Northern Front because he wanted to become a hero for her and gain fame and fortune, and also to come back to her and propose. The boy wonders if he has the courage to tell Aaron all this. Then he remembers that he read in the newspaper that some nobles from the palace got married while they were fighting monsters in the freezing cold. The knight looked closely at the photographs in the newspaper and thought that he could not see the face, but judging by the article, it was definitely Aaron. And he understands that now she is a duchess. An inexperienced noble lady has taken over the management of the Imperial palace, and there were also rumors that her husband was having an affair with a younger aristocrat. Ains reflects on how it was very difficult for him to enter the high society, but he achieved it. However, no, without victims, of course, since he got poisoned by Lucifer. The knight thinks he regretted everything when it happened that because of his wound, Aaron's reputation was tarnished. At this point, the main character says that she thinks there are enough tomatoes, and then suggests going. The guy says that he will carry the basket. The girl says that he is still as polite as ever, and then thanks him. However, the young gentleman says that there is no need to thank him. Aaron thinks there are many men who wouldn't lift a finger for a lady, or even a basket of tomatoes. Then he says he has a reason to be proud. At this time, the young gentleman thought that he had resigned himself to the idea that she had married and consoled himself that at least this girl would be happy. Ains looks at the main character and can't help but think that he wants to be with her forever, and he thinks that she would probably consider it impudence after he ruined her life. The knight reflects on the fact that when he is cured, or even when he is not cured, he will still tell the whole world the truth and justify her good name. After all, he just wants to be near her. When they came to the house, the maid took the vegetables and cut them, and then asks what the main character will do. Erin says that she wants to make tomato soup. Hearing this, Melly is surprised and says that this soup is very complicated. However, the girl assures that she is wrong and says that it is nothing like that, and then offers her to watch how it is prepared. The main character explains that first, you need to fry the meat in oil in a frying pan until done, then add the vegetables and fry everything together. After this, you need to add the frying mixture to the broth and also add spices and tomatoes and then cook. A few minutes later, the maid reports that her mistress has made a very excellent soup, rich in taste and aroma. Erin turns to her friend and says it's not the most festive dish, but she hopes he likes it while he thinks he needs to hold back. In a few minutes, the plate was empty, and the young gentleman said with admiration that this soup was simply fantastic. And then he remembered that he had tried many different dishes from the Northerners, and then he claimed that only she could cook so deliciously. Melly agrees with the knight and says that he is right, and then says that Lady Erin cooks better than anyone because she understands that the freshness of tomatoes goes perfectly with potatoes and meat. The maid asks the young gentleman if he wants more, and he says he doesn't mind. And then he claims that the main character is a great cook, and her desserts are worthy of a king's table. Ines thinks that when she opens a cafe, he is sure it will become the most popular place, and then asks what she will name her cafe. Erin says that she has already thought of a name for a long time, and then remembers her mother and says that she wants to name her cafe Lemon. At the same time, noble ladies have gathered at the estate of Count Flynn. One of them says that Lady Serena is simply brilliant today, and it is not for nothing that she is called the first beauty of the Imperial court. Hearing this, the lady says that they flatter her, and the girl with green hair says that she heard that the Duke gave the Duchess a divorce for her infidelity. Serena says that it is true, and at that moment she noticed that His Highness Calix had arrived. The young master immediately attracted the attention of the girls because each one wanted to become his wife. Sitting at the table, the girl noticed that the gentleman looked in their direction, and at that time, Serena thought that he had a grudge against her. Calix has always been like this. He is the only brother. His Highness and Serena tried to get close to him, however, he always ignored her. The Duke's mistress thought that she did not want him to treat her like that in public. Then she turned to the ladies and said that she would be stepping away for a moment and explained that she needed to talk to her stepfather. When the lady left, the girls began to gossip about the fact that the wife of Duke Raymond, who was expelled in disgrace, opened a cafe in the eastern part of the capital. And another lady says that it is not even a cafe but a pastry shop where they serve coffee with sweets. The green-haired Marchioness claims that if she were to open a cafe, she would do so in the center of the capital, and she does not raise the question of why the Duchess chose the outskirts. The girl with red hair suggests that perhaps she wants to avoid unnecessary attention and live with the leader of the knighthood. The lady with blue hair says that their former Duchess was very clever, and she lives far from the city center and enjoys happy days with her lover. Suddenly, Calix comes up to them and asks what lover they are talking about. The young ladies were very surprised to hear this. His Highness apologizes and says to be forgiven for frightening them. Then he explains that he simply could not pass by such a conversation, and again apologizes for eavesdropping. The girl with red hair says that His Highness has nothing to apologize for. The gentleman turns to the lady and says that she is very kind, and then asks if it was true that they talked about his daughter-in-law. Calix believes that he missed everything because he hasn't visited the capital for a long time. At this time, the girls thought that the emperor had forbidden spreading gossip about Erin. The young gentleman asks why the ladies are silent, and then says that he is very curious and offers to tell. He also says that he knows that his grandfather has forbidden this to be spoken of at court, and then he claims that this is not the imperial palace. Hearing this, the red-haired girl thought that she could tell the Lord everything, since the emperor would forgive him everything. However, she still didn't know whether she could trust him. The girl reports that the former Duchess embraced Ines. They were caught in the garden at night with the leader of the knights, and they were hiding in the bushes, and then reports that he himself should understand what the man and woman were doing at night. The lady with the red hair says that the Duchess bought a cafe away from the center after the divorce. Hearing this, the young gentleman asks if she thinks that the Duchess did it because she wants to meet her lover there, and then asks if she saw them in the bushes that night. Milady objects and says no, and Lady Melvin told her about it. Calix claims that means she saw it, but the girl objects again and says that it was Count Lanavel who told her. The gentleman asks again if he saw it. Milady objects and says that the maid told him this. His Highness thinks that perhaps it is the maid, the witness, and then asks what her name is and where she can be found. The lady heard this and felt confused, and then did not understand what she should answer. Calix believes that she, Madame, heard a story told by someone unknown, and retells it to everyone with such confidence, as if she had seen it herself. At this point the girl thought that she had been caught and that he might be behaving in a friendly manner, but she must not forget that he was the only Archduke of the Empire, and he also had all the sympathies of the Emperor on his side, and so she had to keep her mouth shut. Milady turns to His Highness and then begs him to forgive her. Calix says that if Madame wants to live, she had better not chatter about things she doesn't know. When the young gentleman went out onto the balcony, he thought that he hated the capital because it was so dirty, and then he wondered what the hell kind of lover the Duchess had. His Highness reflects on the fact that the palace is a place where maids, officials, and countless guards, soldiers, and nobles constantly walk, and if the Duchess really intended to meet her lover in secret, she would invite him to her chambers. And then Calix wondered what secret meeting. Maybe in the garden, and she would never do such a thing. Suddenly, a knight approaches His Highness and says that he has news from the south, and then he says that His Majesty is returning to the capital. At this time, the woman being outside thought that it was very hot, and she understood that summer was still far away. Suddenly she saw a cafe and thought that she could take a break there. Dama does not understand when the new cafe appeared, and then she read that the cafe is a pastry shop, and she thought that before this could only be found in the city center. The maid greets the visitor and then asks how she can help her. The stranger sat down at the table and thought that it was very cozy inside. The waitress asks what she would like to order, and at that moment, the lady thinks that she shouldn't order desserts in an unfamiliar place. And then she orders a cup of iced tea. Melly gives the woman a cup of iced tea and scones as a gift to celebrate the opening. The woman thinks about how this is a brand new cafe and thinks she is lucky. Madame tasted the cake and thought that she had never tasted scones like these because they were so nice and soft and just melted in the mouth. The woman turns to the waitress with delight and tells her that they have wonderful scones. The main character explains that she makes them with cream so that they are more tender, and then suggests trying them with strawberry jam and claims that it will be even tastier. The stranger says that this has a very bright and sweet strawberry jam with nice creamy scones, and then she says that she has never tasted such a refreshing iced tea with an exquisite aroma of black tea, and it is a wonderful combination. The customer asks to bring her another millefeuille. A few minutes later, the main character brings the order. The woman looked at it and said that it was delicious, and at that moment she thought that this dessert was very hard to find, and she had never seen it. And when she tried a piece, she said that it was very tasty. At this time, Erin thought that the gift scones were almost ready, and since today was the opening day, it would be good to please the first visitors, and the main character made more cookies and wants to serve them after lunch. Suddenly, the girl doesn't understand why it's quiet, and then she asks, "Melly, what happened?" The butler arrived from the Imperial Palace and addressed Lady Erin. Then he informed her that he had come to tell her that the Emperor had summoned her. 9 years ago, the lady recalls that the Emperor told her that he had heard rumors that ever since she married Raymond, he had shown her continual disdain and hostility. His Majesty says that he knew the marriage would not be easy, but he did not know that it would be so miserable. The Emperor believes that it is entirely his fault, and then turns to Lady Erin and asks her to accept his sincere apologies. Hearing this, the girl assures the Emperor that she is fine, and then invites him to raise his head, and then she says that she is grateful to him for what he did for her parents. His Majesty claims that as long as he is alive, the lady can count on any support and assistance. The butler informs that His Majesty has ordered him to escort Lady Erin to the palace. Upon hearing this, the girl asks in surprise if the king will allow her to return. The servant objects and says that His Majesty wishes to ask her for help. Hearing this, the girl thought that His Majesty was the same as before, and then she thanked him for the mission and said that she had no desire to return, and then she asked to convey her deepest gratitude to His Majesty. Erin tells the butler to wait and then gets the Emperor some cookies. The lady says it's nothing and asks him to give them to His Majesty. When the emperor saw the cookies, to thought that this was to be expected, since he understood that the lady was offended, and then he suggested that Raymond be locked up. The emperor asks the duke if he knows why he called him. Raymond explains that he discussed everything with her like civilized people, and this divorce was a reasonable decision taken together. And then he explains that usually when people are not suitable for each other, so that they do not torment each other, they get divorced. His Majesty claims that he and Aaron are the future emperor and empress, and not some ordinary couple. Raymond claims that he knows this, and therefore could not allow rumors of her infidelity to tarnish the honor of the royal family. Hearing this, the emperor thought that he had invested so much in his and Calix's education, but for some reason it had not added to their intelligence, and this boy continued to do everything in his own way. The emperor recalls the day he told Raymond that he was going to marry. Upon hearing this, the duke explained to him that he could not and did not want to marry someone he did not love. His Majesty asks if he intends to continue to show disdain to Aaron and bring another woman to the palace, and at that moment he thought that this girl should be his wife. The emperor claims that this is a rumor and nothing more than a rumor, and then he says that this is no reason to divorce his wife after 9 years of marriage. His Majesty thinks that Aaron is a good, decent girl, and besides, she has shown herself to be excellent in the management of palace affairs, and she has been too kind to them. Raymond claims that His Majesty has always been so generous to her, and then says that just because she is the future of the empire does not mean that he himself should make peace with her. The Duke tells her that their divorce proceedings cannot be stopped. Then he asks if he wants to marry her himself. Then he says that he doesn't mind. After his words, the emperor poured a cup of tea in his face. Seeing this, the butler gave him a napkin, and the emperor claims that he must return Aaron home. However, Raymond objects and says that this is impossible and explains that she has already signed the divorce papers. The emperor claims that he cannot divorce at all without his permission, and then says that these documents are worthless because he is the emperor and he is his grandson. And therefore, if he wanted to divorce, he should have come and asked for his permission. His Majesty orders Raymond to bring his wife to him, and then says that he does not want to hear anything about divorce. When the Duke left the emperor's room, Serena saw him and asked how he was doing. However, the angry gentleman ordered them to leave immediately. Hearing this, the lady does not understand what happened and asks about it. However, Raymond asks if they have gone deaf and then, screaming again, orders them to leave. Serena thought something was wrong. She was thinking that if she got rid of Aaron, she would become a duchess herself. The mistress recalls that that night she slipped the leader of the knighthood a drug to create a compromising situation. Serena understands that the drug did not work as it should, and the dirt was not particularly hot and passionate. However, she expected that His Highness would leave this girl and become hers. The mistress ponders the fact that His Majesty refuses to acknowledge her and has deprived Raymond of his status as crown prince. She also does not understand what is so special about this girl and how she is better than her. Serena thought that if she just eliminated Aaron, then the Duke would finally be hers. Rumors started circulating in the capital that someone had moved out of the Imperial Palace to the eastern part of the city and opened a cafe there. And another man says that he heard it too, because people came for her from the palace and asked her to come back. The cook says he heard that she didn't agree and instead sent a magnificent dessert as a gift to the emperor, and then they wondered who this person was. The stranger who was in this cafe says that she knows her personally, and she definitely has some connection to the emperor's palace because there is a royal monogram hanging on the end of her cafe. Having heard this, Milady became interested in whether the nobles from the emperor's palace ordered desserts from her. The woman explains that she found this cafe by chance, and then she says that she was very pleasantly surprised by the sophistication of the desserts and drinks, and then she asks if an ordinary cafe owner can afford to buy such high-quality ingredients. Suddenly, a girl with long black hair approaches the lady and apologizes for interrupting their conversation, then asks if these are all rumors or not. The girl with the short hair says that everything happens for a reason. Then she asks why there would be a ban on talking about it if there was no basis for these rumors. The stranger claims that if this were not true, the cafe would be supported with all their might, and then she says that they act as if the cafe does not exist and everything they say is not true, and therefore she is sure of one thing, that the dessert was really sent to the palace. At this time, the main character is making an apple pie. But sitting down for a minute, she thought that there were a lot of visitors today, and that's why she was running around. And then she thought that she would have to visit Ainz and thank him for the gift. Melly turns to Lady Y and says that she must come over because someone has sent her a package. Then she asks if she ordered such an expensive set. Aaron objects and says that she has never seen this set before. The guy says that she was asked to pass on a note. When the main character read the note, she thought that this gift was made by Ainz, and she understands that it is very expensive, and she thinks about the fact that she already has enough expenses, but he helped her with this just in time. A few minutes later, the pie was ready and the main character took it out of the oven. The girl realized that she had made a good pie because it had a golden crust and the aroma of apples, and it looked very appetizing. Aaron thought that it just needed to be cut up and then it could be sold. Suddenly the girl heard cries of being taken for a beggar, and when she opened the door, she saw Melly on the floor. The maid turns to her mistress and says that this is the same man. The guy screams and demands to call the owner of the cafe, and then claims that their waitress has bad manners. Aaron reveals that she is the owner of the cafe. Then she asks him how he is behaving and claims that it is unacceptable. The man tells them to listen to him and then says that he paid her waitress 10 gold pieces, but she claims that he only paid 10 silver pieces and says that he is some kind of swindler. Melly explains that he paid in silver and then demanded change, claiming that he had given her 10 gold pieces, and she tried to call for help, but there were only 2 ladies in the cafe, and they were afraid of this boor. The buyer turns to the main character and reports that she herself saw that this gentleman gave exactly 10 silver coins. Hearing this, Aaron claims that she has witnesses and then asks what he has to say in his defense. Hearing this, the man screams, saying that they are stunned, and then throws a bag of coins at the girl. He says that it is his wallet, and then claims that if they do not believe him, they can count them themselves. When the main character opened the bag, she saw silver coins and then threw them at the man. Aaron asks the guy to count his money himself. Then she tells him that not only was he never taught how to behave around ladies as a child, he wasn't even taught math. Hearing this, the guy angrily raises his hand and seemed to want to hit the main character, but suddenly he felt pain, and then he fell to the floor. Black-haired man claims that this guy almost made the worst mistake of his life, then turns to the lady and says that he came at the right time. Calix greets the Marquise and says he hasn't seen her for a long time, and then asks what happened. He looks at the guy who was lying on the floor and then apologizes for the lady having to go through this, and then he stands with his foot on his chest. The young gentleman turns to the madam and then says that if she allows it, he will kill this son of a dog. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that this should not be done. After all, she understands that no one will want to come to a cafe pastry shop where a person was killed. His Majesty turns to the boy and calls him a dog, then tells him to go away before he changes his mind. Aaron addresses the visitors who were there at the time and then apologizes for the scene. The main character turns to His Highness and asks why exactly he came. The young gentleman explains that his former relative has opened a cafe and then asks if he might be curious. And then he says that it turns out that she has events here every day. Upon hearing this, the main character claims that he is exaggerating and then explains that she does not have this every day, and then says that in any case, she is grateful to him for his help. Aaron invites the gentleman to have a cup of tea alone, then tells him that she is afraid he will not escape attention. At this point, the maid turns to Milady and tells her that her customer is waiting for her outside. Hearing this, the gentleman says that he understands that she has a lot to do, and then says that he will go to another one. The main character asks in surprise if he is leaving His Majesty, explains that he did what he wanted and visited her new cafe. Hearing this girl thought that he just came to look at the cafe. Aaron turns to the gentleman and then apologizes for keeping him waiting for her for so long and asks how she can help him. Zacher, for the day after tomorrow's tea party from her establishment. Hearing this, the main character thought that Lady Catherine, this granddaughter of the Prime Minister, and she does not understand why the Duchess would order from such a modest pastry shop. The servant reports that Milady asks her to come to tea in person and present the cake. I heard this girl think that now she understands what is going on, and this Duchess does not need the cake at all, because she understands that she wants to put on a show, and she thinks that she has no reason to refuse, because she will not be frightened by this. Aaron tells me to tell Milady that she has accepted the order, and then the main character of the beginning makes cupcakes. Suddenly a gentleman with a spoon in his hands approached the Marquise. Seeing him, the girl asked in surprise what His Highness was doing here. Calicas remotely says that Marquise starts her workday very early. Then he explains that he came to see how his former relative works and says that he also wants a dessert of kelp. Aaron heard this and thought that she was divorced and that they were nothing to each other and she was not related to him. However, the girl understood that he had always treated her well. Crown Prince Calix was orphaned early and adopted by a prince of the Imperial family, a friend of his father. But 2 years later, the prince fell ill with a serious illness. The emperor took pity on the boy and raised him as his own grandson, and also spoiled him. Therefore, Calix grew up free, kind, and independent. Aaron remembers when she first came to the Imperial palace, she was very shy. However, he showed concern for her and always invited her to play together, and he also made sure that she did not go hungry. The main character turns to His Highness and explains that she is busy today. Hearing this, the gentleman says that he will watch her work. The Marquise says that he must be bored, and then offers to take some cookies that she made for the guests. Aaron remembers the strict imperial etiquette and the huge list of tasks that the Duchess is responsible for, and she realizes that it was dizzying, and in the Imperial palace, she was surrounded by hostile people who constantly discussed her personal life behind her back. The girl remembers that Calix was always a ray of light and kindness in her life, and when he grew up, he moved to his estate, and they never saw each other again. And at that time, she thought about the fact that she had never even imagined that they would meet under such circumstances. Aaron turns to His Highness and tells him that there is nothing interesting about her job and he will be bored. Then she asks if he would like to go for a walk and see the views. Hearing this, the young gentleman asks if she is laughing, and then explains that in the capital it is boring everywhere and he does not want to walk. Balls and receptions are held every day, and he is happy in her estate where no one bothers him. The girl agrees with him and says that she understands him and can imagine it. He asks if she wants to visit him and then says that no one will offend her there. Aaron says she has to work and says she will take these desserts to the cafe as they are on sale tomorrow. Then she turns to His Highness and says that if he wants anything else, he can open the cabinet where there are cookies. Calix tells the lady that she forgets that he has grown out of such childish passions, and at that moment, he thinks that she is doing better than he expected. After all, at court she constantly had to play a role, and she could not say what she thought. And today, for the first time, he saw that she stood up for herself. The young gentleman looks at the girl and claims that she has changed. Aaron asks Melly how the model making is going. The girl replies that she made a couple of macarons and then asks if the lady wants to see me, saw the macaroons and said with delight that they were just like the real thing, and then claimed that she knew that her maid was a craftswoman. The Marquise says that she will be away on business for a short time, and then says that His Highness has stayed with them, and therefore invites the girl to look after him. The maid wonders where Milady is going and asks about it. The main character replies that she is going to Rue Bayard for ingredients because she needs something for Lady Catherine's cake. Melly claims that it will soon be dark, and then suggests that she go instead. However, the Marquise objects and says that she needs to see for herself what she is buying. Then she leaves and says that she will be back soon. At this time, Raymond thinks that the Emperor is a stubborn old man, and since that day, he has never accepted her request for an audience, and he does not want to see him until he returns. Aaron. The young master does not understand what he saw in her. However, he reflects on the fact that she is from a noble family, but he does not see any particular greatness in her. The coachman announces that they have already arrived. When the prince entered the cafe, he thought that he did not understand how the former duchess lived in such a place. He also wondered if she made these desserts herself. Raymond recalls that his wife was engaged in baking for sale even before marriage. The young gentleman remembers that Serena told him that the duchess had received a birthday present, and he would not believe it, since it was pie crusts. Hearing this, he asks what nonsense this is. The mistress claims that this is exactly what happened, and then explains that the thing is that she went and sold pies on the street to help the family with debts, and they were probably so poor that she was not even ashamed of it. At that time, Raymond thought about his wife selling baked goods on the street, and he didn't pay attention to it at the time, and she didn't interest him at all in his life. When the maid entered the room, she greeted the prince. The master asked where Aaron was. At this time, Melly thought that the mistress would not be happy about his arrival, and then she said that she went out for ingredients and would not be there for a long time, and then she asked if His Highness could come later. Raymond said that he would wait. At this time, the main character came out of the store and thought that she had stayed there for too long. After all, she saw that the streets were empty, and this made her feel uneasy, and so she needed to go back quickly. Suddenly, Erin felt like the man had been watching her before, and then she starts to run. However, the stranger runs after her and grabs her. The Marquise hit him in the face with her bag, and at that moment she thought that she needed to save herself, but since her skirt was long, it got in the way, and in her haste, she fell. When the girl looked back, she saw a man, and he claims that she can't escape from him anyway, and then he pulls out a cold weapon. Erin screams and asks why he's attacking, and then says that if he wants money, she'll give it to him. The robber replies that he doesn't need her money. Then he says that he's sorry, but he's following orders and attacks the lady with a knife. At this time, the main character closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she saw that the robber was lying next to her on the ground and he was wounded. Calix asks if he hurt her. Seeing the young master, the girl asks how he got here. The crown prince offers the woman his hand and offers to help her. However, the marquise says that everything is fine and she can get up herself. But suddenly she feels that her legs are not obeying her. The young gentleman tells her not to be afraid and then claims that he wants to help her and lifts the girl up. Then he asks if she knows this man. Erin replies that she left the store and he attacked her. The young gentleman thinks that it was probably a robber, and at this time, the girl thought that this was not an ordinary robber, and if he wanted money, then there was no point in killing her, because she knows that thieves do not do this, because the body of the murdered person can be found. The lady reports that he said he was ordered to kill her, and she does not understand why after all she is no longer a duchess, and her honor continues to be trampled by rumors of treason, and if anyone would want to cause her even more harm, it would be the prince's mistress. Calix turns to Milady and says that she must be in confusion, and then he claims that he will take her back to the cafe because she needs to get over what happened, and she is in no danger with him. As Erin walks home, she wonders how His Highness found out where she is. He explains that the lady had not returned to the house for a long time, and he asked for her waitress. When he arrived, he found that she was being chased by a villain. The young gentleman says that he is glad that he made it in time. The young lady thanks him for saving her life. Hearing this, the crown prince asks if she will allow him to come to her cafe every day and eat cakes. Erin smiled and said that it was not up for discussion, and she was waiting for him. His Majesty suggested that the girl never go to such places alone again, and then he claimed that it was dangerous there, and he also suggested that it would be better to send a maid or hire another servant. The main character thanks him for his care, and at that time she remembers that when they met he was still a very young boy, and now he is an eligible bachelor, and she will not know who this man is next to her. When they arrived at the cafe, the Marquise thanked His Highness for seeing her off, and she also claims that she will not remain in debt. Suddenly Raymond opened the door and asked in surprise what Calix was doing with Erin at this hour. Hearing this, the main character asks His Highness what he is doing here, and Idea wonders if he was waiting for her. However, the prince does not answer, but claims that he wants to ask her what she is doing with Calix at such an hour. Erin, surprised, asks if she really needs to answer. Then he tells her what she doesn't do or who she dates, and she wonders if he has any reason to care. Then he claims that they are nothing to each other anymore. Raymond heard this and asked what she was saying. Calix apologized and then said that he hadn't seen that expression on his face for a long time. Then he said that he would tell her himself. The young gentleman says that he saved his former relative from a robber, and he walked her home because it is dangerous on the street now. Hearing this, the prince asks if a robber attacked her and then asks if the marquise was hurt. Erin replies that she is fine and it is thanks to Monsieur Calix. Then she thanks him for asking. The marquise asks why he came and then says that she cannot stand there forever and suggests that he come in. Raymond invites the girl inside and says that she is probably tired, and then says that he will come another time. Then he turns to his brother and claims that he also needs to go home. At this time, the main character was surprised because the principal was worried about her, and then she said goodbye to them. Calix informs the marquise that he will return tomorrow. The black-haired guy says that the scoundrel who attacked his sister was no ordinary robber, and in one of the alleys of B. Ayar Street lies a body, and then he suggests taking a closer look at his girl. At this time, Raymond thought about how Calix had been sitting quietly in his north, and now had come to his domain, and was trying to teach him about life. And he wondered if he had guessed that he was not just an adopted child, but a descendant of kings. The prince recalls that 15 years ago in the emperor's palace he found his brother in his father's study. They were not considered brothers, but when they were young they got along well and Calix was a very sweet boy. Raymond tells his brother that the emperor is calling him and suggests that he go quickly, and also says that he will collect the scattered books himself. The prince ponders the fact that even if Calix inherits the title of Grand Duke from his father and is higher in status than him, he will still remain a person of royal blood, unlike him, and therefore he understands that he has nothing to worry about. But then Raymond found this letter, which was written for dear Tara. The prince realizes that Tara is Calix's mother and that she is the Grand Duchess, and that these are his father's handwritings. Father writes that roses have blossomed in the Imperial garden and he is sending her a bouquet of them as a gift, and he is sorry that he cannot be with her at this time, and he has learned of her imminent marriage and his fate saddens him. Father cannot leave the Imperial palace just as she cannot renounce the name Royton. Tira wrote back a letter in which she said that when her marriage was consummated, he should not write to the Grand Duchess anymore, as it was not proper. The Duchess wrote that their happy time together, "Hey dear, but it is only a memory," and she wished him happiness in his new life. Raymond realizes that his father and the Grand Duchess were lovers, and the last letter was sent shortly before the marriage, and at that time the young gentleman thought that he could be of royal blood. His father adopted Calix and raised him as his own, and it turns out it wasn't because Calix's father was his best friend. At this time, the Crown Prince informs the knight that in one of the districts on Bear Street there is a body, and then he orders him to find and identify it. Sitting in the carriage, Raymond thought that even if Calix knew something, he was not going to give in to him in anything. Erin ponders the fact that Lady Catherine's cake is due this afternoon. She remembers that she has lost all of her ingredients and is at a loss as to what to do. The main character thought that there was no chocolate, and there was no point in her even starting to make the cake, and she couldn't ask for a delay because it would be a blow to her establishment. The girl ponders what one of the ready-made cakes from the counter might bring. At the Duke of Levant's estate, the ladies are sitting at a table and wondering if the Duchess will bring them a cake. One girl assumes that she will not come because she does not know how to make cakes. After all, she has clearly heard that the cafe is just an excuse and a cover to meet with that very night. The brown-haired girl suggests that they stop and not talk about it in front of Lady Catherine. Lady Catherine is in love with Commander Ainsey. The butler informs the ladies that the Marchioness of Arran has arrived with a cake. Having seen it, the customer says that she is glad to see it, and then she says that they have been waiting for it, and they can't wait to see it in a magnificent cake, and then she offers to present it. The main character thanks Lady Katerina for trusting her establishment, the Lemon Confectionery Café, and then claims that the young lady knows a lot about exquisite chocolate desserts. Erin claims that the cake is full of chocolate, but in the classic version, Sacker is a little modest in his appearance, and then explained that therefore she decided to make something special for the young lady's tea party, and she hopes that they will like it. When the ladies saw the cake, they were surprised by its exquisite decoration, and the girl with brown hair asks if it is real, flowers or cream. The main character explains that it is white chocolate. Hearing this, the girl is surprised by the played hair. Erin says that she thought for a long time before she came up with the idea to decorate the cake with something equally delicious and beautiful. At this point, Erin thought that it was good that she had time to do everything. After all, she understood that it was not easy, since at first she did not have the ingredients. And then she remembered that when she opened the door, she saw the bag that she had lost in the evening. She wondered who had left it. The girl remembers that only 3 people know about what happened yesterday, and these are His Highness Calix and Melly. The main character thinks about the fact that Melly has gone to bed, and therefore she should be doubly grateful to Calix, and she wondered how he got into the yard unnoticed, and at that time she thought about how she should make the fence higher. Lady Catherine is a little confused because she didn't expect her friends to like the cake so much, and then she thought she would check if it was a good cake. The lady with red hair says she thought the chocolate would be bitter, but the cake is very soft. And her friend asks how she likes apricot jam in a sponge cake, and then she says she could eat such a cake every day. At this time, Katerina can't believe it's so good, but when she tasted it, she thought it was true, because it's a sweet cake with a slight bitterness of chocolate, and it's in perfect harmony with the bright, sweet, and sour taste of the apricot jam, and it creates a perfect balance with the thick aroma of chocolate. Katerina can't imagine that Lady and N made it herself. The main character asks Madame if they liked it. At this point, the customer thought that she actually wanted to find fault and criticize, but she understands that it is so delicious that there is no point in lying, and then she says that it is not bad, and even a tasty cake. The Marchioness says she is glad because they liked the cake. One of the women asks if Lady Erin will make her a cake too, and the lady agrees. The lady with the lilac hair announces that she has a tea party next week and then asks if she can order a cake too. Suddenly, Serena comes up to them and says that she also wants to order a cake, and then she says that she hasn't seen Lady Erin for a long time. The main character greeted the prince's mistress. Serena wonders where Erin was, and then says that she also wanted to invite her to dinner, but she disappeared somewhere. The Marquise assures her that she need not worry since she no longer lives in the palace. Then she asks if she wanted to order a cake, Madame. Serena announces that there will be a ball at the Imperial Palace in 5 days. It would be nice if the lady made her a cake for that day. Then she announces that there will be no end of customers. Erin takes the prince's mistress by the hand and tells her that she has a great idea. Then she says that she will bake the most exquisite cake for the occasion. Serena turns to Lady Erin and says that she is happy for her because she does not suffer from excessive modesty, and then she says that she was so worried because her affair with the commander and knights saw the light that she will be ashamed to show herself to people, and she says that the lady lives well, is doing well, and she envies her. At this time, the main character thought that she was the same as before, and sarcasm, causticity, and she also had a feigned concern. Erin turns to Lady Serena and says that she is flattered, and then asks how she compares to her. After all, she, who has been openly in a relationship with a married man for 9 years. The main character claims that if she is not ashamed to show herself to people, then she does not understand why she should be. And she says that she will not hide it, because it was hard for her, but she was inspired by the courage of Lady Serena. The Marquise says that she is an example of a self-confident, liberated woman. The ladies were surprised to hear this, and the main character says that she will make the best cake, which she will definitely like. Melly turns to the Marquise and says that Serena's order is strange to her. Then she asks if she thinks it might be a trick. After all, the prince's mistress always plotted against her while she lived in the Imperial Palace. The lady replies that, of course, it's a trick, and she understands it perfectly well. And the maid asks what to do now. After all, she understands that the lady has accepted the order, and it cannot be cancelled. However, the Marchioness calms her down and tells her not to be afraid. After all, she has a rough idea of what exactly she has planned. Melly turns to the main character and says that she does not want her to continue to suffer because she understands that the lady has moved out of the palace and lives her own life, but now she does not sleep at night because of these stupid orders. Erin explains to the maid that she can't make a half-assed cake for the ball. Then she claims that the better the cake, the higher the prestige of their establishment will be. and her prestige too. The main character says that she is tired of being a silent target, and now she goes into battle herself. Suddenly, two girls come into their cafe. The older one turns to the lady and asks if she can buy them a cake. The waitress apologizes and then says that they are already closed for today. Then she suggests that the girls come tomorrow. The little girl, screaming, explains that they just want any cake and they will pay and leave. The girl states that she needs it today and asks if they understand. Erin asks the cutie why she needs it today. The little girl replies that it's her birthday. Hearing this, the main character thinks that usually parents make cakes for children, and she thinks that maybe these children are in trouble. The marquise says that she has some cakes left over, and then says that if they want one, she will make one for them right now. Hearing this, the girls are delighted, and then thank Madame. Erin asks the girl what kind of cakes she likes, and then suggests that she tell her because she can make any kind. The girl enthusiastically replies that she wants a cake in the shape of a cat, and then asks the lady to make her a cake with a cat. The main character remembers that her mother often made cookies in the shape of cats for her. Big Sister explains to Shirin that cookies can be made, but a cake cannot be made in the shape of a cat. However, the little girl claims that she loves cats. The girl with red hair asks her sister not to be capricious, and then explains that the kind aunt agreed to do it for her, even though the cafe is already closed. At this point, Erin thinks that children probably care more about how a cake looks than how it tastes, so she can draw something. Then she says that she figured out what the order should be and says that she will make the cat somehow. The lady asks the girl if she minds if the cream is made of cream. The little girl happily says she doesn't mind. The Marchioness tells Melly to make the girls some tea and tells her she's going to make a cake. The main character thinks that the easiest thing is to cut out the cakes in the shape of a head with ears. However, she understands that she wants to do something special for the child's birthday. And suddenly, she has an idea. Erin ponders that such a technique does exist, but she is not sure if she can do it. After a few minutes, the main character tells him that she tried to make him as nice as possible, and then asks if they like it. When the girls saw that they were very happy, and then they claim that he is very cute, and they are also interested in what these cats are from and whether they can be eaten. The Marquise explains that it is made of marzipan and then says that she has some left over from making the petals and offers the girls some if they want. The little girls tried a piece and then turned to Auntie and said that it was very tasty. Hearing this, the lady said that it was good and then said that she would pack the cake and asked the girls to wait. Big Sister asks how much the cake costs. Erin replies that the cake is made from leftovers, so it will be free. Hearing this, the girl objects and says that she can't do that because her parents always said that you can't take something and not pay. Hearing this, the Marquise thought that she was a very clever girl, and then she named the price of 1 silver. Erin says it's dark outside and then asks the girls if they can get there on their own. Big Sister says they only have to go to Bayer Street, and they work in a fruit shop there. She then thanks Madame for making such a beautiful cake. The main character thought that she was very sorry that such small children had to work, and that was probably why the older sister was so smart. The waitress says that she has put things in order, and then she says that Milady helped the poor children, although her working day has long ended, and says that she has a kind heart, and then she suggests that she always be like that. Erin turns to Melly and tells her that she has something she wants to ask her about, and it's about Serena. She then tells her that these girls gave her an idea. After some time, the maid informs Lady Serena that she has received a letter from the Marchioness of Erin. The mistress read the letter, which said that Erin would send a cake worthy of being the decoration of her ball, and she hoped that she would be so kind as to show the cake to the guests. Serena read the letter and tore it up, and at that moment, she thought that Erin was quite calm for a woman who had been kicked out of high society in disgrace, because she understood that she hated living in the capital while she was living happily and selling her cookies. The prince's mistress remembers that she sent an assassin, but she doesn't understand where Calix came from and saved her. She understands that His Highness loves Calix, and that's why she can't get to him, and she doesn't understand why he spends time with Erin. Serena knocks on His Highness Raymond's office door and tells him she has something to tell him, and while she's doing so, she's thinking that if she can't hurt Erin directly, she'll have to do something else. The Crown Prince asks what she wants. The lady explains that she is holding a ball at her estate tomorrow evening, and then she begs him to join her. The young gentleman heard this and did not understand why he should go to her estate, and at that moment, the mistress thought that he had cooled towards her since the last time he had communicated with His Majesty, and she was sure that he would not be able to reject her proposal. Serena turns to His Highness and says that he hasn't gone out with her in public for a month, and then suggests that he understand her correctly, since there are already rumors that she has lost his favor. And then you assure him that she says this, but how much to worry about him after all? He understands that such rumors can harm His Highness. Serena claims that he has been cheating on his wife for 9 years and even filed for divorce because he has a mistress. And if he leaves her, he will be left alone with His Majesty's anger and his problems. And she understands that he is proud and will never admit that he was wrong. The Crown Prince announces that he will go. The mistress turns to His Highness and claims that he is truly generous. Then she announces that she must go and suggests that she see him tomorrow evening. At this time, Serena thought that even if she was disgusted with him, she would never let him go. The next day, Calix comes to the boutique and asks what Lady Erin thinks. He also wants to know which dress she likes best. Then he tells her not to rely on him, since he is not a great connoisseur of fashion. At this time, the main character thought that just recently she was at home and making cakes, and she does not understand how she ended up here. An hour ago at Erin's house, the young gentleman says he didn't know it was that hard. The main character calms him down and says he doesn't have to help her and tells him not to worry. At this time, the Marquise thought about what she had told him, that he could come to the cafe whenever he wanted, but she realized that he came too often. The lady turns to His Highness and says that their frequent meetings will only ruin his reputation, and asks how he does not understand this. Melly turns to Lady Erin and tells her that she has done what she asked of her. She then informs her that everything is ready for the cake to be sent to the Brennan estates. The Marquise thanked the maid and said that she was always on time. Then she said that she would go to the ball herself tomorrow and suggested that she rest after dinner. Hearing this, the girl was delighted and thanked her mistress. Calix asks Lady Erin in surprise if she is going to the ball. The girl replies that Lady Serena has invited her. The gentleman asks if she has already chosen a gentleman. She replies that she is going alone. Hearing this, he asks in surprise why this is so. Erin explains that she has no one to ask and she is not going to dance. Calix asks the lady if she wants him to be her cavalier. The main character heard this, was surprised, and then said that he always said that balls bored him. The young gentleman agrees with her, and then claims that this time she is going to the ball, and therefore it is a different matter. And then he suggests that she admit that she is not going to just bring a cake and decline milady. The Marquise claims that His Highness is right, and then explains that the matter is different, and if he is her cavalier, he will hear a lot of unpleasant things about himself. The Crown Prince is interested in the act. Who will he hear this from? Erin reports that the nobility will tell him this, and perhaps His Highness Raymond. Calix asks milady if the opinions of others really matter that much. The girl replies that she doesn't care what they say. After all, she will still do what she wants and live the way she wants. The young gentleman says that living constantly worrying about what others think is tiring, and then asks if she thinks the same. And he wonders if that's why she divorced Raymond. The Crown Prince says that if she wants to know, going out with him has one undeniable advantage. The girl wonders what it is. The young master explains that his brother's concubine hates him terribly, and if he were near Lady Erin, she would not dare even approach her. The Marquise says he is right, and then announces that he has almost persuaded her and offers His Highness to be her cavalier. Calix turns to the lady and tells her that he has a favor to ask of her. Then he explains that it is nothing important and asks her to go downtown with him. At this time, Erin understands how she ended up in this place and what favor he was talking about. The lady asks His Highness why he did not immediately say that he wanted to buy an evening dress. He explains that he was afraid that she would refuse him. The Marquise says that if he thought she had a better understanding of fashion, she will disappoint him. Then she asks if he wants to choose a dress for the lady and offers to tell her what she likes and what she is like. At this time, the main character thought that she had made a mistake and that maybe he was in love with the girl and she was asking such questions. And then she said that, however, it was none of her business. Calix says he will tell, and then he says that she is very different from the typical noblewoman, and for her he wants the most beautiful gift and wants to please her, and it is not about the price, and you can give the most expensive dress in the empire, but if she does not like it, then it is worth nothing. Aaron thought that from His Highness's description, she must be a very noble lady. She wondered who she was, but knew it would be impolite to ask. The Marquise says that if she has such exquisite taste, and then asks if it would not be better to give a gift with feeling and special meaning. Calix turns to the shop assistant and tells him that he is buying a dress from his shop. Then he orders him to immediately bring all the dresses that are on display in the hall. Seeing the boxes, the main character thought that this was a gift the size of a monthly budget of the Imperial Palace. And then she asks His Highness if he thinks that he will embarrass the lady of his heart if he sends her all this. Calix asks which lady she is talking about. The lady explains that it is for the one he buys everything for. The Crown Prince says that he didn't think that it would all result in such a misunderstanding, but he understands that if he doesn't say it straight out, she will get angry later. At this time, the main character does not understand what he is talking about and asks about it. The young gentleman turns to the lady and asks her why she thinks he called her here. Aaron replies that he wants her to help him pick out a dress for a certain lady, and then asks if she is telling the truth. She then claims that he asked her for a favor and asks him to explain it to her, since she does not understand anything. Calix says that there is nothing significant in this request, and to give all these dresses to her so that Milady would choose the best one and go with him to the ball. The main character asks in surprise why he wants to give her such a gift. Hearing this, the young master asks a counter-question. What does she think? At this time, Aaron thought that at first it was some interest and then just concern. After all, it seemed to her that he was helping, since he still had an old affection for her. Calix reminds the lady that she promised him something, and that promise was that she would accept a dress from him as a gift. Erin de Brescia is known throughout the empire as a divorced duchess of ill repute, first remembered when she was 13 years old. Sitting on the summer terrace, the emperor addresses Calix and tells him to behave decently when he meets Aaron, and then explains that he will see for the first time the one who will become his brother's wife, and therefore he must remember his brother's reputation and not even think about running away like last time. The Crown Prince recalls that Aaron was already engaged to his brother at that time, and he had no interest in her. The young gentleman sat at the table and thought that he should still run away secretly. The butler turns to His Highness and informs him that the daughter of the Marquise Brescia has arrived. Calix. That's what he thought until the moment she appeared in front of him. The lovely lady thanks him for the invitation and then says that her name is Erin de Brescia. His Highness says that enough of these dry introductions and then suggests that the girl sit down at the table quickly. The black-haired boy couldn't take his eyes off this sweet lady, and he understood that she was his brother's future wife. 6 months later, the brother's engagement to Aaron took place, and the following year they were married, after which she began to live in the palace. However, Brother Raymond brought his mistress to the palace immediately after the wedding, and everyone mocked and condemned the lonely duchess. Aaron ignored the rumors and quietly went about her business in the palace, but at least that's how it seemed. On the surface, Calix didn't understand how long the girl his brother had brought would live in the palace. After all, his wife always seemed so busy, and his mistress spent her days throwing receptions and balls. When the young gentleman passed through the corridor, he saw that the light was on in the kitchen, and then he wondered who was there. After all, he understood that at this time the servants were already leaving for their rooms, and it was late. When the Crown Prince opened the door, he saw his brother's wife, and then he thought it would be better to pretend that he had not seen anything. Suddenly, my lady heard that someone was watching her and then asked who was there. Calix realizes he has been spotted and then walks into the room and asks if she is baking lemon pie. Erin smiles sheepishly and says she suddenly had a craving for lemon pie in the middle of the night. Then she explains that her mother taught her the recipe, and she always said that sweets are a comfort when the heart is heavy. Hearing this, the guy thought that it meant that she was having a hard time here, and then he said that he didn't know that she could cook. The Marquise reports that as a child, she wanted to become the owner of a pastry shop and open a small establishment somewhere in a quiet place and cook desserts every day, and this was all her dream. Aaron tells His Highness that she will treat him to a piece of pie. In exchange, she asks him to keep everything he saw today a secret. Calix asks if the lady thinks this bribe will be enough to keep him quiet. The Marquise assures him that it is, and then says that when he tastes a piece, he will certainly become her accomplice. At this time, the young gentleman thought about her quiet voice, which seemed to whisper, and the smile directed only at him, and the warmth that permeated her gaze. All these feelings were slowly spreading throughout his body to his very heart, and for the first time, he experienced such sensations, such sweet sensations. Calix wanted Aaron to always smile. It had been a short time since that evening when he and Aaron had eaten pie together in the kitchen, and then something else happened. The Crown Prince turns to the Marquise and says that he wants to buy her a dress. She is surprised to hear this, and then asks why he suddenly started talking about it. The young gentleman recalls the conversation of the ladies who discussed the outfit in which the Duchess appeared today, and they also said that the dress was boring without a single decoration, and they even thought that she was in mourning. The lady says that Lady Serena recently received another dress as a gift from the Duke, and it had many precious stones, and she looks much more like a duchess. Hearing this, the Crown Prince realizes that he does not want Aaron to be hurt by such words. Then he says that he just wants to give a wedding gift. The Marquise assures him that he has already sent a gift. Calix says that it will be a birthday present. Then, the lady says that he does not have to please her like that. However, the boy asks her to let him give her a gift, because he really wants to give her something. Aaron agrees and says that she would be very happy to accept a gift from him, and then she tells him that it should not be too expensive. Sitting in his room, Calix reflects on the fact that he understands nothing about women's clothes, and he was initially going to buy the entire studio, but he thinks she won't like it, and he assumes that there won't be any problems because of one outfit. The Crown Prince turns to the maid and tells her to send the Imperial designer to him right away, and at that moment he thought that if he gives her a dress that is richer and brighter than that girl's, then no one will be able to look down on Aaron anymore. Calix believes that if she is having a hard time because of his brother, he will make the lady smile, and at that time he believed that it was possible. However, it was a big mistake. On Aaron's birthday, the couturier announced that the dress she had ordered was ready. Then he announced that he had spared no expense in making the dress. Then he claimed that the lady who received it as a gift would certainly be pleased. The couturier claims that this dress is made of very delicate and light, high-quality material, which is called angelic, and it was protected with the help of a special technique. And along the neckline, it was decorated with precious stones. The designer says that the dress is made in a new style, which is ahead of the capital's fashion trends, and in such a dress, any lady will become a style icon. Calix enthusiastically says that he is a good boy, and then orders that the dress be immediately packed, since he wants to give it as a gift. The couturier, crying out, claims that he has not yet fully listened to her explanation. The Crown Prince thinks that she will surely like this dress because he really wants Aaron to smile like last time. And then he opens the door and turns to the Duchess. At this time, Aaron examined the dress and surprisedly asks him in Highness what happened. Calix asks the lady if she received a dress as a present. The Duchess explains that Prince Raymond gave it to her for her birthday and that he is very busy, so he sent a maid. Then she asks what the occasion is. The Crown Prince recalls that he felt as if he had been doused with ice water, and he understood that it was immediately obvious that the maid had chosen this dress. But when he looked at the lady, he realized that she was so happy about this gift. And if he gave her a gift now, she would not smile as much at any other gift. The young gentleman says that he wanted to give her a gift, but he came at the wrong time, because he wanted to be the first to congratulate her on her birthday. And at that moment, he thought that her heart is not his, but another person's. The Duchess thanks him, and then claims that the gift is not necessary and suggests not to worry about it. The girl claims that he has specially set aside time for her and then suggests that they have tea. The Crown Prince claims he came simply to congratulate her and then says he has to go. The Duchess suggests they meet another time. Calix thought that this is how his first love ended, which he didn't even have time to tell her about. After all, he understood that he didn't have time to confess anyway, and he shouldn't have fallen in love with her from the very beginning. The young master realizes that he was not the only one who had such thoughts. The emperor asks Calix what he thinks of his brother's wife, and then he tells him that he heard that he spends a lot of time with Erin, and she runs the household, so she is very busy, and he tells him not to bother her too much. The young gentleman explains that he simply thought she was having a hard time, so he visited her several times. He reports that the lady doesn't show it, but he thinks she's not entirely happy with the presence of this Lady Serena. He then asks his grandfather if he could throw her out of here. The emperor claims that if this would solve all the problems, he would have done so long ago, but he understands that the problem is his brother. His Majesty explains that marriage in the royal family is not only for love, and so Raymond is now protesting, but he thinks he will soon calm down, and so he should not worry about Lady Serena. The emperor turns to the boy and says that it is wrong to love someone who is already married, and then he says that this is very bad, and he also thinks that the lady knows this too, and so he must stop thinking about Erin. Grandfather says that when he grows up, he will meet the one he will truly love, and then he will marry her. Calix reflects on how he had wished so many times that these feelings would be just passing ones, and he understood that if he couldn't love her, he hoped that if he didn't see her, these feelings would pass, and with these thoughts, he left Ruthin. The servant reports that his brother has divorced his wife. Because His Majesty was very angry about this, he returned to the capital ahead of schedule. Hearing this, Calix's elite servants prepare the horses as he is immediately returning to the capital. The young gentleman is thinking that he will meet her just once and just check how she is doing, and until she needs his help, he will just be there for her. Erin asks Mr. Calix why he gave her this. At this point, he thinks that he can say all he wants that he wanted to help her, and was worried about her. But in reality, he realizes that he just wanted to be there. However, the Crown Prince understands that these feelings may become too burdensome for her, and then he asks if by chance she does not remember the promise she once made, and he says that she promised that she would accept a dress from him as a gift. Calix tells her that he wanted to give her a present for her birthday, but he didn't have time, and this worried him. After all, he understands that she just needs a new dress for the ball, and so he thought it was high time to give her this gift. At this time, the main character remembers that something like this happened, and then she claims that this is too much, and one dress could have been given. However, the young gentleman assures her that one is not enough because another occasion or another ball may come later, and he suggests that she simply consider it a gift for all 8 years. Erin says she has no place to store it. Calix hears this, says that if it's a problem, he can free up a closet in his house. The girl is surprised and then says it's not a problem. The young master believes that she no longer needs to live modestly. The main character understands that he is right. After all, now nothing prevents her from doing what she loves, and she no longer needs to pretend to be a wise and caring duchess, and there is no longer a need to adapt to someone else's opinion. Erin thinks he's right, because she knows this isn't a palace, and so she can indulge in a little luxury. She then tells him that she's been wanting to attend a ball in this outfit sometime and would be grateful to wear the dresses. Calix was delighted to hear this. Then he said that she had to choose a dress for tomorrow and asked which one she liked best. Suddenly he saw that Milady was laughing and asked why. The girl explained that she simply suddenly remembered forgotten feelings, and then asked if he knew that for a long time she could not refuse him anything. Erin says that she liked to see his satisfied face when she did as he wanted, and so she never refused his requests. Hearing this, the young master was surprised, and then says that he knew nothing about it. The Marquise explains that it is nothing special because he was so sweet then, and she always imagined that his little brother would be like that. She claims that it is a compliment. Calix says that for men, the word cute is not a compliment. Erin says she will remember that. The Crown Prince asks her what dress she will choose. Then he says that the dress they just looked at suits her hair color very well. The day of the ball at the Brennan estate. The maid informs that she has brought the cake that Mistress Serena ordered. Aha, she suggests Melly to wait. And then he calls the head maid. When the maid came, Melly asked her to make sure that the treat was not damaged during transportation, and then she said that it was a very important one. The head maid assures her that everything will be fine and she need not worry. After lunch, the main character closed her cafe, and then she began to make entries in the expense book A. When she finished, she began to slowly prepare for the ball. Erin looks at the dress and thinks that she can't seem to forget Calix's face. Then she remembers that even as a child he loved to spend money, and if he liked something, he would buy it right away. The main character thought that all these dresses he gave her and that he would be her partner at the ball, it didn't mean anything special. Melly tells Marquise that she gave the cake to the Brennan family. Then she asks if she would like to help her with the preparations. Erin thinks that there is nothing complicated and she can handle it herself, and then announces that she is no longer her maid, but a store employee. Melly claims that this dress is not easy to put on by herself. Then she asks what will happen with hair and makeup. The main character explains that she wanted to dress subtly, as if she were going to a palace event, and she wants to have discreet makeup, a strict hairstyle, and no jewelry. Melly screams and says that she should not do that under any circumstances. Then she says that she should wear brighter makeup than usual. After all, she knows that she is going to be Miss Serena at the ball, and she will probably dress up like a peacock this time. Then she asks her to let her help. Erin agrees with the girl and then asks for her help. Hearing this, Melly says that she will bring the makeup tools right away. A few minutes later, the girl says that in order to maintain the image that matches the outfit, she put on a slightly brighter lipstick than usual. Seeing herself in the mirror, the main character says that it is as if it is not her and then thanks the girl. Melly believes that she didn't really do anything, since her mistress was originally very beautiful. The Marchioness looked at her watch and said that the time had already come and the Duke would arrive any minute, and she realized that she needed to go already and suggested that the maid go and rest. Erin apologizes for being late and then asks Mr. Calix how long he waited. The Marquise asks the gentleman why he is looking at her like that, and she wonders if she looks strange, and then explains that Melly put makeup on her. Calix says that she is so beautiful that it blinds his eyes, and then he offers her his hand. The Marquise says that she must tell him the same, and at that moment, she thought that Calix was in unfamiliar clothes, and she did not understand why she was a little worried. While at the ball, the prince thought that he was bored and he already regretted that he had come. The butler announces that Duke Royton and Lady Britzia have arrived, and when Raymond saw the main character, he was surprised. At this time, the aristocrats, when they saw the Marquise, were surprised because she was dressed like that, and it was not immediately recognizable. Erin greets the Duke. He replies that he didn't think she would show up at such a social event. He is also surprised that she has already found a partner. The Marchioness says that he came here with Lady Serena, and then asks what prevents her from coming with a partner. Hearing this, the Duke was surprised and angry. Calix claims that the lady said the right thing, and then asks if there is a reason why Lady Erin cannot be here. Since the legal divorce has already been finalized, and he no longer has the right to interfere in her life. Serena tells His Highness that it was she who invited Lady Erin. Then she explains that she was meeting with Lady Catherine, and on the way she met a lady, heard about the ball, she promised to bake a cake for her. The mistress explains that she could not simply accept the cake, and so sent her an invitation card. She also assures that she did not know that the lady would come with the Archduke. Hearing this, the main character thought that Serena was using this trick again, and she pretends as if she asked for an invitation by promising to make a cake. The lady understands that she has been patient until now, but she will not do it anymore. Erin claims that she is right, and then explains that she asked her to make the cake first, because it would help advertise the cafe. And she is very busy, so she couldn't take other orders, but she couldn't refuse her request. The Marchioness asks Lady Serena if she got her cake, and then he says that she tried, and was therefore a little surprised that he was not put out at the ball. The mistress replies that she ordered the cake to be taken to a separate room so that the guests could enjoy it during the break. Erin announces that she's the reason the break between dances has been so long, so she's going. The main character thought that she felt good because she didn't think that she could say everything she wanted. It was so convenient, and she realized that she should have done it earlier. The Marquise asks Mr. Calix why he is smiling. He replies that she simply looks pleased. Hearing this, the girl asks if it is noticeable. The young gentleman replies that she behaves much better now than when she lived in the palace. At this time, The girl thought about everything that she learned to talk like that, and all this thanks to Calyx. The prince turns to the Marchioness and says that he congratulates her on her return to the world of society as Lady Erin. He then asks if she will do him the honor of being her partner in the first dance. The dazzling light of the lamps and bright outfits, the intent glances of those around her, and the main character understands that if it were her past self now, she would definitely refuse him. And then she agrees and says that she is very pleased with him. And at that time she understood that she had acted as her heart told her. Erin tells the young master that he is holding up well. Hearing this, he asks if she thought that his dancing skills were zero. The Marquise replies that she has never seen him dance before. Calyx explains that there simply weren't anyone he wanted to invite to dance. Serena noticed that His Highness was looking at the couple and offering to go out into the hall and dance. The Archduke turns to the lady and says that it was an honor for him to dance with her. Then he kisses her hand. Serena announces that she is suggesting a short break, and then informs that there are light refreshments and drinks in a separate room. There is also a cake baked by Lady Erin herself. The Marquise asks His Highness if he will go with her. Calyx replies that he will wait for her because he thinks that his brother wants to talk to him. Then he says that he has asked the servants in advance to do what she asked. The Duke's mistress asks the maid why she didn't take the cake out. Then she reminds her that she said to put it outside Dasha. The head maid apologizes and explains that it seems the maid in charge was too busy. What did she forget? Serena turns to Lady Erin and says that she apologizes because she had to check. The Marquis assures that nothing terrible happened. The mistress thanks her for her understanding. Then she turns to the maid and orders her to open the box quickly. At this time, the main character thought that when the maid opens the box, they will see the cake covered in red liquid, and she assumes that Serena probably counted on exactly this scenario. The Marquise reports that she sent it in advance and then asks if she checked it herself. Hearing this, the Duke's mistress explains that the matter is this. And at this time, the head maid speaks for her, that Mrs. Serena was busy preparing for the ball and therefore could not check personally, and she brought the box with the cake into the hall and no one opened it. Erin claims that he was fine when she sent him away, and then asks if one of the maids made a mistake. The main character says that this is a sample. Hearing this, the Duke's mistress does not understand what she is talking about and asks about it. Erin says that she brought it personally. Since she invited her, she thought she could bring it herself. She also says that she indicated in the note that she would make a sample in advance. The Marquise says that if you put the cake out early, the cream might leak and spoil. Then she explains that at an event in the Imperial Palace, they usually put out replicas and the guests are served the real cake. The main character says that in such heat, she insisted on having the cake decorated with white chocolate and therefore thought that she knew about the fake and was too hasty in her conclusions. Erin says she understands, since the lady never organized an event for the Imperial Palace, and naturally she didn't know about it. And then the servant brings the cake into the hall, a gorgeous cake. The main character asks Lady Serena if she doesn't mind, can she remove the fake? And then she claims that such disgusting things should be removed immediately. The aristocrats were curious about the taste of this beautiful one, and when they tried it, they thought that it was white chocolate, which went perfectly with the biscuit, and she could easily compare with the pastry chef of the Imperial Palace. The lady says that she likes this one better because it is moderately sweet. Erin asks the Duke's mistress if she liked the taste of the cake. She replies that it was delicious and then thanks Miss Erin. Hearing this, the main character claims that she called her by the wrong name, and then explains that in a personal meeting it is not so important, but at official events calling her Miss Erin is simply impolite. The Marquise claims that when living in the Imperial Palace, it is necessary to know the following rules of etiquette. Calyx asks the Marquise if everything has been resolved. She replies that everything is fine. The young gentleman says that she looks pleased. Erin asks how he is, and she wonders if he had to listen to any unpleasant words from His Majesty. He replies that it was nothing special, and then asks what she will do now since the ball is not over for a while. The main character says that she will return home. The Archduke says that he will see her off. The Marquise thanks His Highness for coming with her today. He replies that he is not worthy of thanks. Then he explains that he was interested himself, and the next time she is invited to a ball, she can turn to him because he will gladly keep her company. Suddenly, the girl noticed that they were returning along a different road, and this road seemed unfamiliar to her. However, the young gentleman assured her that they were going home to his estate. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and he asks why she has such an expression on her face. The gentleman explains that after the ball, it is customary to have a light snack for dinner and then return home. Erin said everything correctly, and at that time she thought that he might have some other intentions, and she understands that perhaps he is too gentle, and therefore his kindness leaves some incomprehensible feelings. Calix says that he has already ordered the servants to prepare a small treat, and then he says that he hopes she will like it. When the main character saw the set table, she was very surprised, and the young gentleman asks if she likes it. The Marquise replies that it is simply wonderful. The Archduke says that he asked her to prepare a little of everything because he doesn't know what she likes. At this point, the girl remembers that he said that it would be a light dinner, and she understands that it must have been difficult to prepare so much. The Marquise reflects on the fact that he is attentive and caring. His Majesty asks the lady if she likes it. After trying a piece, the girl says that the weather is getting hotter and she is wondering what could be included in the cafe menu. Calix claims that during this time she has become a real owner of the cafe, and even at this moment she thinks about him, Hyun-sunim. Hearing this, the main character thought that Hyun-sunim, this is an address to the wife of the elder brother, and then she says that he calls her that again. After all, she remembers well that before this, he called her Lady Erin. The Archduke explains that he didn't mean to call her Hyun-sunim at that place. The lady says that anyway, thanks to him, she had a lot of fun today, and she thanks him again. The Marquise reports that she hasn't felt so calm for so long. At that time, she thought about how after marriage she became a duchess, then lived in the Imperial palace and got divorced, and also bought a cafe and started to run it. The main character understands that if you think about it, a lot has happened in a short period of time. Calix looks at the girl and then asks what she was thinking about. She replies that she was just thinking that time flies. After all, not long ago she couldn't even imagine that she would no longer live in the palace and that she would have her own cafe. Erin says it would have been better if she had achieved all this a little earlier, when her parents were still alive. The young gentleman turns to the lady and says that he has another gift for her. He then explains that he saw it by chance in an antique shop and immediately thought that he would definitely give it to her when he saw it again. The main character saw a music box, and at that moment she remembered that a familiar melody was still playing in her ears, and it was quite a lost, but such a familiar and dear music box. And so the lady has no doubt that this is the very thing that her father made personally and gave to her mother. After all, she understands that this is the only one in the world, a music box which they had to sell because of debts. Erin asks Calix how he knew about her. He replies that the lady herself told him and even hummed the melody, and then asks if she remembers. Hearing this, the main character thought, "What is it really?" It was at that moment when she baked such a lemon cake at night, and they ate it together. Calix asked her what the melody was. Then the Duchess explained to him that it was the song of the Erdens, and her mother often sang it to her, and that is why she liked it too. And this song was passed from mouth to mouth, and that is why everyone has their own little bit of it. The girl explains that her father had a hard time writing down the notes, and then he made a music box and gave it to her mother. The young gentleman asks if he made it himself, and then says he was curious about what the box looked like. Erin tells him that they lost it, and so it is no longer possible to see it. The surprised Marquise asks the Archduke if he still remembers this, and at that moment she thought that when her parents died and she got divorced, she thought that she had lost everything, and so she thought that now she would have to start all over again. The main character understands that on the other hand, the last 9 years, after which she had nothing left, seemed to be meaningless, and therefore there was some sadness in her soul. And then she says that the young gentleman looks like a magician. Hearing this, Calix smiled, and she said that he helps her every time she is in trouble. The Crown Prince explains that in such cases it is usually said that a person is like a prince. And then he says that the main thing is that she liked the gift, Hyun-sunim. The main character tells him to just call her Erin and then claims that she is no longer his Hyun-sunim. That same day, at the Brennan estate, the Crown Prince asks his brother what he is up to and is curious about why he showed up to the ball with Aaron. Calix replies that he is a little uncomfortable to hear that, and then says that she simply asked him to be her partner at the ball. Raymond claims that a woman who knows nothing but the palace system could not ask him for such a thing. Hearing this, Calix asks what he means by, "he doesn't know," and then he claims that it seems that she seems that way to him. The Crown Prince asks if he means to say that he knows his wife better than he does. Her brother claims she is Lady Erin, and it is strange to call the man he divorced his wife. At this point, the prince thought that they had gotten to him, and then he enters Serena's room and asks if she really invited Erin. The mistress wants to explain something to him, but he insists that she should not talk nonsense, and he knows that she tried to kill Erin before. And then he says that this is the last time he tolerates her antics. Serena explains that she simply thought that if she was not there, the emperor would allow them to marry. The prince asks if she hopes that this old man will change, and then she tells him that even when he had no bride, he did not allow him to marry her, and then she asks if she is really that stupid. Raymond says that he warns his mistress not to touch Erin again without his permission, and then leaves, leaving her alone. Serena then went berserk, and she screamed and said that she didn't understand who she was and that he himself said that Erin was boring him, and then she broke the furniture in her room. At this time, the head maid comes into her room and addresses the mistress. She says that she should not be so angry, because she will think of something. Hearing this, the lady asks what she can do if the Duke said not to touch her. The maid asks how about changing the method. Hearing it is Serena asks what she means. The maid says that she should just make her leave the capital on her own, and then asks if that's right. At this point, Calix has put the lady in the carriage and then asks if she will definitely get there alone. She replies that she will, since he has provided an escort to the carriage, and then says that he is too worried. Erin thanks the prince for this evening and says that if he comes to the cafe, she will treat him to a delicious dessert. The Archduke replies that he will look forward to their next meeting. The servant tells the lady that they have already arrived, and suddenly the girl sees an unfamiliar carriage standing in front of her cafe. Raymond gets out of the carriage and says that she has finally returned. And at that moment he looked at the carriage with the seal of Reuton and thought that she had been in the estate of Calix all this time. Erin asks the Crown Prince what brings him here. He asks her to give him some time, and then they go inside the cafe. The Marquise asks what business he has with her, and then says that it is already late, and she would like to finish this conversation as quickly as possible. The Duke says that he heard that an unpleasant situation happened to her at the ball today, and he understands that she was bothered not only today but for a long time, and so he wants to calm her down and says that it will not happen again. Raymond claims that if something like this happens again, she should tell him and not tolerate it. Erin wonders if that's all he wanted to tell her, and at that moment she thought about how she had been putting up with all of this because of him, and then she says that if that's all, she asks him to leave because it's late, and explains that she has a lot to do at the cafe tomorrow. The Duke asks the girl to wait, and at that moment she thought about how he showed up at such a late hour and was trying to tell her something, and he also doesn't know the rules of decency and doesn't know how to show concern for others. The main character asks if she needs to show him where the door is, and then gets up and leaves. Suddenly, Raymond stops the girl and says that he wants to tell her something. The Marquise orders that she be released before she calls the guards. The Duke lets go of her hand and says that he came to apologize and did not think that she would treat him like this. The main character thought about whether this is the behavior of a person who wants to apologize, and then asks why he came so late at night without warning to a stranger's house, and thought that she would be glad to see him. Raymond was surprised to hear this, and she asks if they are not strangers to each other. The Crown Prince smiled and said that he didn't even know, because the Emperor still thought of them as husband and wife, and then he explained that he said he wouldn't accept the divorce until they got his permission, and the Emperor even refused to meet him on business. The Duke tells her that she must go with him to the palace. And at that moment, the main character realized why he came to her, and he is a man who does not care how Serena treated her, and she knew that he is not the type to apologize. Erin asks why she has to go there at his request. After all, she understands that the legal part is already completed, and the Emperor did not tell her anything separately, and therefore he recognized their divorce, and he promised that he will not insist on her return. The main character says that he started the divorce process without his permission, and thus angered his father. That's his problem. And then explains that she is not obliged to come to the palace with him. Raymond was surprised to hear this and then asked why she was talking to him like that. He said that the lady also agreed and then asked if she was trying to take her anger out on him. The Crown Prince claims that Calix told him everything and that she was the first to offer him to be her partner at the ball, and then asks that if she angers him, she will remain pleased. The main character heard this and didn't understand why he suddenly started talking about it. And then she said that he was talking like that, as if there was a reason why she shouldn't have appeared at the ball with Calix. Hearing this, Raymond slams his fist on the table and then, screaming, asks if it's not obvious. He explains that they just recently got divorced. Then he asks what people around him will think. Erin asks if this is the man who brought his mistress to the palace and lived with her before the wedding. He asks, screaming, if this is the same thing. The Marquise explains that compared to him, these are completely different things, and she is pure because they are already divorced. The Crown Prince informs her that even if he allows her to date other men, it should never be Calix. Hearing this, the main character does not understand why he does not like his brother so much, and it seems to her that there is some other reason, besides the fact that they have a bad relationship, and then asks if he is talking about permission. Erin thinks it's none of his business who she dates, and she hates hearing that. Then she opens the door and tells him to leave. Raymond says that he will come next time, and at this time the Marquise thought that she was tired and she should quickly go up to the bedroom and take a bath, and then lie down. Suddenly she heard a strange sound in the kitchen, and she became curious. And then she went in, but she didn't see anyone and thought that maybe she imagined it. The next morning, Melly wishes the lady a good day and says that if she was very tired yesterday, she can rest today. Erin insists that she's fine and has 3 more desserts to make today. Then she asks Melly if she accidentally left the chocolate roses by the window. The girl replies that she did not touch them, and then says that the window was open in the morning, and she thought that the lady had cleaned the kitchen and rearranged them. The Marchioness was surprised, and then explained that she had not opened the window. The girl assumed that perhaps a cat had wandered in and eaten the chocolate. However, the lady became interested in whether cats ate chocolate, and at that moment she thought that perhaps some wild animals had gotten into the house. A woman who had already been there came into the cafe and said that they gave her 2 desserts and 1 scone. The main character greeted Miss Fiona and then said that she had dropped in on them again. The lady said that she made such delicious desserts and she couldn't refuse them. Then she said that her pay was too small and she would have to sew new clothes. Erin thanks the lady and tells her to sit down and she will prepare her order. The lady tells her what she wants to take with her today and then offers to pack them. Melly turns to the lady and informs her that she will be doing the packing today. Miss Fiona says that time flies and the summer festival starts next week. Hearing this, the main character cannot believe that so much time has passed so quickly. The summer festival in the capital began at the very beginning of summer, and it lasted until the beginning of the rainy season. During the festival, the night market on the embankment was very popular, where traders from different parts of the empire waited and brought exotic goods. Such a celebration was mostly attended by commoners, and so, after Erin began living in the palace, she had no opportunity to attend it in person. And at that time, she thought that now she did not need to think about what others would think. Fiona asks the Marchioness if she wants to see the festival. She says she would like to see it but doesn't know if she has time. The customer asks who she wants to go with. The Marchioness says that she just wanted to go there alone. Hearing this, Fiona claims that it is not interesting to watch the party alone, and then asks if she knows any male friends who could accompany her. At this time, the main character thought that she loved rumors. Erin remembers Calix, and that he said that if something interesting happens, then let her be his covenant. However, she understands that he cannot be invited, since it is not proper for a duke to show up at events for commoners. After all, wherever he goes, he will be noticed everywhere. The Marquise thought that if she offered Melly, she would like the idea and she would spend the day off with her boss. Suddenly, a man enters the cafe and asks if the lady is the owner of the cafe. Erin wonders how she can help him, and at that time she noticed that he has a brooch with an embroidered tower, and it seems that he is an official and a low-level one. The man says that he is the manager and is responsible for this area and therefore came to check the sanitary conditions. The main character, hearing this, is surprised and then says that she only recently opened the cafe and has already gone through all the authorities. The man says he knows because it's a surprise inspection. Hearing this, the girl thinks that if he announces the visit in advance, it won't be a surprise inspection. Then she asks if he wants to start with the kitchen. The stranger says he's curious because the kitchen is outside. Erin explains that she makes the drinks inside the cafe and there's not enough room to make desserts. She says she doesn't think that's a problem. The Marquise is thinking about the fact that if she does some renovations, she can expand the space and add space for a kitchen, but since she doesn't have the funds for that right now, she's dealing with the situation this way. Erin shows the kitchen and says that she bakes desserts here, and at that moment, she thought that it was good that she cleaned everything up this morning. The official says it looks good, and Milady asks if she can get the kitchen utensils out of the drawers. However, he says no and then asks if there is anything else there. At this time, the main character thought that maybe he wanted to check the desserts themselves, and then asked if he could try a dessert, and then she said that she had a cake that would go on sale. Hearing this, the man objects and says that he is not talking about this, and then he says that she is a slow-witted woman. The official explains that she probably doesn't know everything yet, since she's just opened, and then he tells her that if she wants to do business in this area, she has to put all her effort into it. And he tells me about these desserts, and about another effort that will immediately become clear to her. Erin heard this and understood why he came to her, because she understands that he is too indifferent to the state of the cafe itself for a surprise inspection, and, unlike other inspectors, he does not have any documents or a notebook with him. The man tells her that he can't write a good review of her cafe without a sign that will show her conscientiousness, and then asks what she will do if it mentions the terrible unsanitary condition of the cafe. The main character asks in surprise if he is asking her for money. The inspector says that she is finally beginning to understand him, and then he says that money is not bad, and if you don't have cash on you, then jewelry will do. The Marquise says that she understands what he means, and then she says that she doesn't have a single penny with which she could bribe him, and then she says that if he didn't come to check the sanitary conditions, he can leave and write whatever he wants in the report. The man tells her, screaming, that if he writes a positive review, her cafe will be closed within a month. Then he asks if she agrees to this. At this point, Erin doesn't understand why he's so angry. Then she reminds him that she said he can do whatever he wants, and she asks if he'll get in trouble if he doesn't get a bribe from her. The main character understands that if the inspector writes a negative review, there is a high probability that such a store or cafe will be closed, and she also understands that if she gives him a bribe, then a problem will arise because of this. And the closure of the cafe will worry her much less, because there will be a risk of going to jail. And she understands that no matter what she does, this is a dangerous choice. The Marquise understands that if he had come only for a bribe, there would have been no need to put on such a show, and then she says that she does not know who sent her, but asks him to leave and not interfere with her work, and not to involve her in his dirty deeds. Hearing this, the man, screaming, threatens that she will regret it, and at this time, the main character thought that, apparently, someone paid him, and there is only one person who could arrange this. Erin remembers that Syria Tolkavchira embarrassed herself at the ball and she can't calm down. The main character asks Melly if she waited for her for long, and she wonders if there was much to do while she was gone. The girl assures that everything is fine, and then she says that when the inspector left, he had a very dissatisfied face, and then asks what happened. The Marquise explained everything to her. And when the girl heard this, she was surprised because she does not understand where such people come from. Erin says she's heard that sometimes this happens, with inspectors taking bribes from store owners, but she never thought someone like that would show up. Melly asks if Miss is okay, and then asks if he's really going to write a bad review. The main character says that nothing will happen, because the owners also have a chance to speak out in their defense, and then she says that she will need to go to the administration and tell them all before they issue an order to close the cafe. The girl suggests that maybe someone bribed them too. She wonders if they can ask their friends for help, and then she says that they should tell the Duke because he will quickly decide everything. Erin feels like she owes Calix too much to ask him for this. Hearing this, Melly suggests turning to Mr. Ines. After all, she understands that he is the head of the Knightly Order and probably has many acquaintances in the administration. The girl says that last time he sent her a gift, and besides, he is her friend and will not refuse to help. Ines comes in and explains that there was no one behind the counter and he wanted to check if there was anyone. Then he asks if they were talking about him by chance. Erin says it's been a while since they've seen each other. Then she asks how his chewing was and if he's been busy. The young gentleman explains that he is doing well and then asks how she is. Ines reports that she was said to have been at a ball at the Brennan estate yesterday. He then reports that he overheard about it and was a little worried about her and came to check on her. Hearing this, the main character thought about how rumors about yesterday had spread so quickly, and then she says that she is fine and nothing special, everything has already been resolved, and assures that, on the contrary, we should worry about Miss Serena. Ines says he doesn't understand why she's still tormenting Erin. The Marquise replies that she doesn't know why she's acting like that either. After all, she finally got Raymond, just like she wanted. The lady asks if he came here just to ask that. Then she claims he has always been caring. A childhood friend tells her that, frankly, there's something else he wants to talk about. Then he asks if she'd mind going to a summer festival with him. The Marquise was surprised to hear this. The young master explains that there is no hidden meaning, and that a lot has simply happened recently, and he thinks it would be good for her to unwind a little. Ines says that if she doesn't want to, she can refuse, and then he says that he thought that her appearance with him, on the contrary, could cause unpleasant rumors. Erin says that she is ready to go with him, and then she says that she also hasn't walked around the evening market for a long time, and if he doesn't mind, then they will go together. The Marquise understands that bad rumors may spread, as he said, but says that she has decided not to worry about it anymore. Melly comes into the room and screams as she addresses the lady. Then she says that a letter has just been brought and some gentleman wants to invite her to tea. Ines asks if Count Florence wrote this letter. The letter states that the gentleman has heard that her extraordinary cakes have appeared at several receptions recently, and he understands that it is so late to send invitations, but it is quite polite. And then he asks if she could honor with her presence the tea party that will take place tomorrow at his house. Erin says that it seems the invitation was sent by the Count's wife, and she writes that she has a favor to ask of her. The young gentleman asks if she knows her. The Marquise replies that she is not acquainted with her and has seen Count Florence several times since he works in the Imperial Palace, and his wife almost never appeared at events, so she has never seen her. And most likely, her request is related to the cafe. Ines asks the lady if she wants him to come with her. Then he explains that he has time tomorrow, and if he doesn't mind, he would like to accompany her. The young gentleman says that he will be able to help her if something unexpected happens. Erin agrees that he will accompany her. The next day, Erin came to Florence's estate with aunts. The butler says that their visit is a great honor for them and then invites them to come since the lady is expecting them. Erin thanked the lady for the invitation. However, the Countess claims that she is grateful to them for honoring her with their presence. Ian says that from what he understands, she is hosting a tea party, but does not see any other guests. The Countess explains that she has a favor to ask of them, and that is why she has invited only them. And then she says that she plans to leave for the capital for 2 weeks tonight. That is why she dared to be rude and call them in such a hurry. Erin reassures her that it's okay. Then she tells her that she brought her some Madeleine cookies and cake, and she hopes she likes them. The Countess thanks the lady and says that there are rumors about her desserts, and she has long dreamed of trying them. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and the lady says that she bakes very unusual and delicious cakes. The Marquise says that there is nothing unusual about them. The Countess says that many people in the capital would like to order dessert from her, and naturally she is one of them. And then you tell her that in 3 weeks there will be a ball in honor of her birthday, and she would like to order a special dessert. And then she explains that this is her request of her. Erin asks what she means by special dessert. The lady asks if she has been to the southern lands of the continent by chance. The lady replies that she has not been there and says that the kingdom of Artion is there. Then she says that she heard that they opened their borders not long ago because of the war with the empire. The countess says that she said everything correctly, and then reports that she only had the chance to visit the south coast once. Hearing this, Ines asks the lady if she has been to an enemy state. The lady explains that this happened when she was very young and did not understand much. The main character is interested in what this special dessert she is talking about has tried in these lands, and at that time she thought that she does not know what desserts they eat in the south. The countess reports that she bought some jasmine flowers a few days ago, and she doesn't know whether they are used to make tea or to add flavor to food. Erin says that this is the first time she sees jasmine flowers, and the woman says that it is acquired in the lands of the south, and she does not know whether she is aware or not, but her mother comes from an aristocratic family, the kingdom of Artion. The lady explains that in order to avoid the evil looks of those around her, she was officially introduced to the society under the name of an aristocrat from another South Island. At this time, the main character thought that Artion and the Empire had been enemy states for a long time, and there was nothing good in disclosing this fact. Erin reflects that when she lived in the Imperial Palace, there were also many ill-wishers there who tried to find fault with the fact that her mother came from a small northern people. The countess says she is ashamed to admit it, but as a child she was greatly troubled by her mother's origins, and so when she accidentally learned of a ship illegally sailing to the Southlands, she impulsively decided to sail on it. The lady understands that now such behavior seems shocking, but at that moment she was very interested to know what her mother's homeland looked like. And the South Sea was very different from the western one, where she often went in childhood, and there was white sand and warm sun. And for the first time, she saw such a beautiful coast. The woman reports that she was walking on the sand. She got hungry and went into the first restaurant she came across and ordered food. And she didn't like this foreign food, which was spicy, salty, and seasoned with too many fragrant herbs. The countess says she tried one dish and still can't forget the taste of that dessert, in which there was a refreshing and sweet taste of peaches, white cream, and pieces of clear jelly underneath, and a sweet floral aroma spreading across the palate with each bite. The woman reports that she ordered 3 servings of dessert, but could not figure out what the ingredients were, and since she did not know the local language, she could not ask the owner. Erin asks if she's talking about cream. The lady objects and says that the cream tasted better than cream, and it tasted like frozen milk and had almost no sweet taste. Then she says that it's shaped like a leaf and asks if she knows what kind of dessert it is. The marquise replies that she cannot even imagine. Since the white cream and the jelly and floral scent are unknown and unclear what it is made of. The woman says, disappointed, that's what she thought. Then she says that she accidentally found out about the seasoning that's used for this dessert. The main character asks if it is jasmine. The countess says that she said it correctly, and then she says that beyond Artion there is the southern sea, and beyond it there are foreign lands where this flower grows. And after the end of the war with the South and the resumption of trade, it was brought to the capital. Erin asks if she can take a closer look, and when she opens it, she smells a refreshing aroma. Quite a rich smell, but not at all harsh. And then she says that the jasmine has a pleasant aroma. The countess says that in the South they also make tea from these flowers. Hearing this, the main character thinks that the flower tea looks good and thinks about serving it in her cafe. The lady says that she asked the chef to make a similar dessert, but no one succeeded, and they tried to preserve the aroma, but the taste was not very good, and the desired taste was lost, and then asks if the lady can make a dessert, preserving the taste and smell. Erin replies that she doesn't even know, because the scent is really nice, and she realizes that such a strong scent wouldn't go with cake or morphine, and it would be nice to make a light cream or pudding like the one the countess tried. Eins interesuется niet she has any information about white cream. The countess replies that she has tried various types used in desserts, but they all tasted different from the right one. The young master says that it is quite likely that it consists of ingredients that are difficult to obtain in the empire. The woman says that if the result is not exactly the same, it's okay, and then asks if she can make a dessert that will retain the flavor. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had never tried to invent a new dessert and therefore was a little nervous, but she realized that on the other hand, it looked quite interesting. Erin agrees and says that she will do her best and try to fulfill her order. The Countess thanks the lady for listening to her and her difficult request, and then she says that she will thank her generously and can name any amount. The Marquise objects and says that it is not worth it, but suddenly remembers that Count Florence works in the administration. Erin says that if she can make the dessert she's looking for, as a tem she asks if she can ask her husband for help. The lady asks her childhood friend if he has seen such flowers in the south. He replies that he does not remember such a thing, and then apologizes for not being able to help her. However, the girl says that she does not know this either, even though she is the owner of a cafe. Eins спрашивает, может ли he help her with something else. The lady asks that he could sometimes drop by the cafe and conduct a tasting of her desserts. The young gentleman replies that he will be happy to fulfill this request, and then he says that he will come every day after work. Hearing this, the girl says that it is enough to just drop by sometimes, and at that time she thought that he is quite handsome, and he is not thinking about marriage. Erin muses that Eins must be getting a lot of good offers. The Marquise says that she wanted to go to Emery's shop. Then she explains that she needs to ask if she can buy more jasmine flowers because it takes a lot of training to develop a new recipe. Suddenly, the knight hugs the girl and says that he feels like someone is following them. Hearing this, the main character understands that they are now on a rather crowded street, and she does not understand who could be following them, and then quietly asks when the surveillance began. Gines reports that from the moment they got out of the carriage, and at first he thought he imagined it, but now he is sure that they are being followed. The lady asks how many there are. He replies that there are about 2, and judging by their movements, they are not ordinary people, but rather trained knights. The main character thought that it could be people from Serena. However, she understands that she does not have enough power to use the knights, and she does not think that Prince Raymond would risk his reputation again. The young gentleman says that he does not think they intend to harm them in any way, and then asks the lady what they will do. The Marquise suggests leaving things as they are. Then she says that if they are just watching them, there is no need to run away from them, since they will not be able to do anything in broad daylight. Then she says that she has a guess. Hearing this, the gentleman wonders what she is talking about and asks about it. However, the girl replies that it is nothing serious and then suggests moving on. At Erin's shop, they said the jasmine leaves were sold out, and the salesperson claims that there has been a big demand for goods brought from the south lately. The lady asks when the next delivery is expected. He replies that he thinks it will take more than a month. Hearing this, the girl thinks that the Countess's birthday is in 3 months. Eins suggests the lady look elsewhere. Erin says they should go to the herbal shop on Boyard Street, and at that moment she realizes that she is in an alley, which is not entirely safe, but she realizes that it is still light and Eins is nearby. Suddenly Erin saw Calix and was surprised. The young master says that they met her by chance in such a place. Hearing this, the lady does not understand what could have brought the Archduke to such a shop. Eins greeted His Highness, and the prince asks if he is the head of the Order of Leflin, Azatem, and then he says that he is pleased to meet him and that he has wanted to meet him for a long time. The knight claims that he had already met him a month ago in the Imperial Palace. Calix explains that he often forgets those who are not particularly important to him. At this time, the main character thought that there was some kind of tense atmosphere and she wondered if they were on bad terms. Calix turns to Erin and asks what she is doing here. He wonders if she came for ingredients. The lady explains that she was already going to another shop, and they didn't have what she needed. Calix says he's taking her because he wanted to talk to her about something important. He explains that this isn't the best place to talk and asks if they can talk on the way. Erin apologizes and says that she already has a companion today, and then asks if he could come to the cafe in the evening. Hearing this, Eins tells her that he is fine and then asks her to go. However, the girl does not understand what he is talking about, and he explains that he will come to her tomorrow. The main character asks His Highness if he accidentally sent knights to watch her today. Hearing this, the young gentleman objects and says that it was not him. However, the girl asks how he knew that she was in the shop. Soulless отвечает, что ему was told by the servants. And the girl wonders how the servants knew about it. The young master says that they are guarding her. Hearing this, Aaron claims that he is still following her. However, the young master objects and explains that he sent her to guard her, and this is not surveillance. Calix apologizes and then explains that he was just worried, and remembers that she was in danger last time too. The girl thanks him for his concern, and then tells him that Ainz was with her today. Hearing this, the young gentleman says that he did not know that Commander Lefnin was such a capable knight, and that he would have to be tested in a duel somehow. Aaron doesn't understand why he suddenly became so unhappy. Then she asks what important matter he wanted to talk about. Calix asks if her brother has come to her cafe by chance. She replies that he came the evening after the ball, and then asks how he knew about it, and she wonders if he is following her there too. The prince asks what they talked about. The lady explains that they didn't discuss anything special, and he asked her to go with him to the palace and ask the emperor for permission to divorce, but she refused. The Archduke asks if that's all, and also wonders if he said anything else. The main character replies that he left immediately and then asks again about it, if he wanted to talk to her. Calix explains that there is something else very important. Then he tells her that the night market will open next week and asks if she wants to go there with him. Hearing this, the main character asks if he had any important conversation. However, the young gentleman claims that it is very important. The lady explains that she has already agreed to go to the night market with someone else. Calix says that he already guesses, and this gentleman will be Lefnin, and he believes that she will be safe with him. The prince says that it turns out that the head of the order has no business, that he can afford to go to the market. Heard, this girl thought about it, that she had the feeling that he was speaking slightly mockingly. When they arrived at the store, the salesman asked what she was looking for. The lady wondered if they had any jasmine flowers. He replied that they usually sold them, but they had recently sold out, and there was nothing left. The man shows all the herbs that were brought from the southern lands, and then they explain that he did not order much because he thought that they would only be used for making perfume, and that a perfume shop actually bought them. Aaron says she's sorry and knows there's nothing she can do, and she thinks about how she barely found a place that sells jasmine, and there's none available here, so that leaves the night market. And if there's none available there, it'll be hard to make dessert. Suddenly, the girl saw a bottle with strange petals, and she was interested in it. After all, it was the first time she saw such dark leaves. When Aaron opened the jar, she smelled something strange and thought it was a glutination, but she realized that the picture was too clear for glutinations. Then she asked the seller what it was. The man explains that these are leaves that come from the Black Forest, and he liked the smell, so he put them up for sale, but no one buys them. At this time, the main character thought that she had never been to the northern lands, and she felt a little sorry to just leave. And then she pulled out the coins and said that she would buy them. Calix says the lady did it quickly, then asks if that's what she came to the shop for. Aaron replies that she hasn't found what she needs, but the flowers can only be purchased abroad, and it looks like supplies have run out. The prince asks why she needs such rare flowers. The girl replies that she needs more jasmine flowers to make a new recipe, but they are impossible to buy anywhere. Then they explain that she needs to bake for the countess. The main character explains what she would like to make, but she hasn't figured out what kind of dessert it is yet, and she doesn't have a recipe. Then she turns to Calix and asks if she could ask him for a favor. When they arrived at the estate, the young master informed her that she could use this passage to enter and exit unnoticed. At this time, Aaron thinks that she could get permission to enter, but that also takes time, and she realizes that only members of the Imperial family can freely enter the Imperial library. Entering the middle, the girl was surprised because she saw a lot of books, and she believes that the books are related to Ardion, most likely because the southern lands there were an enemy of the Empire for a long time, and therefore there were restrictions on the spread of this culture. Aaron thinks I don't need a book about Southland cuisine and recipes because she thinks she might find some hint about dessert there, but after reading several books, she hasn't found a recipe or even the slightest bit of useful information. The lady is a little disappointed because she was hoping that she could at least figure out how to use jasmine, and at that moment she realizes that she has no time at all. Well, suddenly she saw a book that talks about the Erdan people and about desserts from different regions. Calix asks the lady what she is looking for. She replies that she is looking for books about the cuisine or food traditions of the southern lands, and she tries to find the recipe for the dessert that the Countess spoke of, but realizes that so far this has been fruitless. The young gentleman asks what the dessert was like. Then he says that he too tried many of the local dishes when he was in the area. Hearing this, the Marquise was surprised because it is a hostile state, and she understands that citizens of the Empire are forbidden to go there, and then asks how he got there. Calix replies that he did so in a similar manner to the Countess. Hearing this, the lady asks if he really went there secretly. The young gentleman explains that his identity was not revealed and no problems arose, and at that moment he thought that if he told her more, she might quarrel with him. Aaron asks if something had happened to him there. He says he knows he acted too carelessly. The Marquise asks why he is smiling and then explains that she is speaking to him seriously now. The guy explains that he likes that she is worried about him, and then she says that from now on he will return safe and sound even if he goes to a dangerous place. Hearing this, the main character objects and says it is best not to go to dangerous places. Calix claims they've strayed from the main conversation, then asks what the dessert looked like. Aaron explains that it was a white cream on a plate of leaves, and inside was something like jelly and smelled like jasmine. Then she asks if he knows. The young gentleman says that he thinks he has tasted something like this in the southern port bazaar. Hearing this, the Marquise thought that this was what the Countess had been talking about. The prince says it wasn't the cream. Well, suddenly they hear someone come into the library and the young lady suggests checking it out. Calix grabs the girl by the hand and then they hide in a corner. The lady doesn't understand what's going on and asks about it. He explains that if they go out now, they will meet an unpleasant person. The Crown Prince says that there is no need to worry because no one will come here. And at this time, the main character realized that this voice belongs to Raymond. His Majesty turns to the man and says that this is different from what he promised him then, and then asks if he didn't promise that he would bring him this thing. The stranger replies that he is right, and then explains that on condition that he follows their agreement. Raymond asks if he wants to break the contract with him. The man says that since he failed to do his part, there is nothing to be done, and then asks if he is wrong. Then he claims that he failed the task and therefore had no choice. The Crown Prince says enough of this talk, and then claims that they were never in league anyway, and he believes that if he wanted to break the contract, he wouldn't have come here in person. The man says that this is true and they cannot just give up on someone as precious as him. At this time, the main character thought that Raymond had secretly made a deal with someone, and nothing was clear because they were not talking about the main thing. And then she turns to Calix and says that they suddenly decided to hide, and therefore the situation became even stranger, and now they can't get out. The young gentleman explains that it looks like his brother is engaged in an important conversation, and it would be impolite to interrupt him. However, he understands that it is also impolite to eavesdrop on other people's conversations. Then he says that it looks like they are leaving. Erin thought it all happened so suddenly that she didn't even notice, and she and Calix were so close that his breath tickled her ears. When they left, the Marquise pushes the gentleman away and says that now he can let her go, and then she quickly leaves. Suddenly, she caught the rack with her dress, and it almost fell on her if Calix had not stopped him in time. Raymond heard some strange sound and then decided to check and saw them, and he became curious about what they were doing there. The Crown Prince states that he will not tolerate this, and then asks if they know what this place is. Aaron tells him to wait and then tells him that it's a misunderstanding. Hearing this, Raymond asks what he saw then, and he wonders how she dared to do that back in the Imperial Palace. At this time, the main character thought that he, as before, does not want to listen to her, and then asks who brought his mistress to the palace and lived with her. The Crown Prince says that she's at it again. Then he explains that having a mistress is quite common among aristocrats or members of the imperial family, and he wonders how much longer she'll make a fuss about it. Then he says that she's done acting like a little child. Hearing this, Aaron wonders if he ever treated her as his equal in 9 years, and then she says that he seems to have misunderstood something, and she claims that she is not his property. not only now but even before when they were married. The Marquise suggests that the Crown Prince not try to control her behavior and interfere in someone else's personal life. Hearing this, Raymond became very angry, and then he wanted to say something to the girl. At this time, Calix stood in front of the lady and said that even though he was his elder brother, he would not allow him to insult Aaron. At this time, the Crown Prince smiled and then asked, how dare he open his mouth in front of him? Calix asks if he will run to his grandfather and report everything to him, and then he claims that it is not profitable for him because he will have to tell about the secret conversation in the Forbidden Zone. Hearing this, the main character is surprised because she does not understand what they are talking about. Raymond says there is no point in arguing with him, then turns around and walks away. Aaron asks the young gentleman what he just said to his brother. Calix doesn't understand what she's talking about. The girl asks since when this is a restricted area. The prince explains that it has been recently, and then he says that now even members of the Imperial family can only enter with permission. Hearing this, the Marchioness says that she should have said so right away. Calix claims that it was her request, and he thought they could sneak in and find the information they needed quickly. Then he apologizes for making her listen to all of this from her brother. However, the girl assures that it is not his fault, and he is not guilty of anything. Aaron asks the young master who was with Duke Raymond. The young gentleman asks the lady if she will be sad if her brother suddenly dies. Hearing this, she is surprised and asks what he is talking about. The prince explains that it's easy to assume that something will happen to his brother. At this time, the main character thought that the war with the southern lands was over and the political situation had stabilized, and she did not understand why he suddenly started talking about it, and she wondered if he really had any plans for the throne, since it seemed to her that Calix was not interested in power. Aaron wonders if she'd be sad if Raymond died. Then she says she thinks she'd be happy, and she has no interest in the Duke's life, and explains that it's a shame to waste time on such conversations. The main character turns to the young gentleman and says that she does not want him to put himself in danger, and she also does not want anything to interfere with her business, since this is her long-time dream, and she opened the cafe only recently. Calix claims that he will protect her so that nothing happens to her and her dream. Hearing this, the main character realized that he had misunderstood, since she meant for him not to get involved in adventures, and that was how he responded. Aaron invites the prince to tell her about the dessert he tried in the southern lands, and then reminds him that they just left off. Calix explains that it was not cream, but a fruit that grows in overseas countries. Hearing this, the lady is surprised because she understands that it is impossible to find it in the Empire, and if you order it, then on a ship that takes more than a month, it will certainly spoil. The young gentleman reassures the girl and tells her not to worry, and then explains that these fruits can be transported over long distances. Aaron asks if he knows the name of the fruit. The prince says he doesn't know the name, but he thinks he'd recognize it if he saw it. He then asks if she'd like to go to the night market during the summer festival. The Marquise asks if he really doesn't know its name. Calix asks if she doubts his words, then he explains that he accidentally tasted it and only remembered its appearance. The main character says that she will go with him to the night market. Hearing this, the guy asks how the head of Lefnin is. The Marquise replies that she can go with him another day, and then she says that she cannot break her promise. Aaron says they better clean up and leave quickly, and that's when she thinks she needs to find another way to get the jasmine flowers. Suddenly, the girl announces that she has found a man who has a lot of jasmine, and she believes that this is the emperor because he loves tea and is always looking for some unusual herbs. The lady says that she heard that in the south they brew tea from jasmine, and the emperor was just in Arteon and probably brought a lot of different teas with him. The Marquise thinks that we should write to His Majesty's senior servant and get some tea from him, paying for it. Calix says he will deliver the letter because he thinks it will be faster. The girl is surprised to hear this and then says that she feels uncomfortable asking him for such a thing. The prince says that it is not difficult for him, since he is always happy to help her, and then it is said that if something happens to her, she can tell him about it first. The young gentleman looked at the lady and then asked what was wrong. She explained that she suddenly remembered their youth. Then she said that she couldn't believe that they had become so grown up. Calix says that he always wanted to be such a person, and then says that he enjoys taking care of her. On a day off, the main character, lying in bed in the morning, thought that she had not woken up so late for a long time. Erin thinks that now all she has to do is wait for the chief servant's answer about the jasmine flowers. When the girl came to the kitchen, she thought she could make the dessert the Countess had asked her to make. Then she remembered that Calix had said that there was fruit inside, not cream. Erin thinks that we need to come up with a dessert with the aroma of jasmine. However, she understands that in order to preserve the floral scent, a dessert in the form of a cake will not work, and some simpler ordinary dessert is needed. The girl thinks that perhaps it would be better to add the same changes to light milk, blancmange, or pudding with whipped cream, and then decides to start with pudding for the first time. Erin first boils the milk, then adds the jasmine flowers. Then she adds the sugar and the cream and mixes it all well, then the egg yolk and mixes it again. Then she puts it in the preheated oven. The main character cools the finished pudding for an hour, and then she thinks that she should try what she got. Suddenly, the lady heard a voice asking if there was anyone in the house, and when she opened the door, she saw a girl who said that she had brought the fruits she had ordered. Erin recognizes the girl who came with her sister to get the cake. Then she says they haven't seen each other in a while and asks if she does delivery. The little girl explains that this is her job and she likes it. The lady invites her to come into the middle and tells her that she will pay her. When the girl entered, she immediately saw the pudding and asked if she was selling it. Erin says it's the first time she's baked it to try it out. The little girl says it's the first time she's seen someone make their own pudding. Hearing this, the main character thought that pudding is often cooked at home, and she says that she sees it for the first time, and therefore she assumes that she may have lost her parents in early childhood since she works at such a young age. The main character asks if she likes pudding and wants to try it. The little girl replies that she didn't take any money with her today. Erin says she doesn't have to pay, and then explains that she's in the process of developing a new menu, and if she tries it and gives her feedback, it would really help her. The girl was surprised to hear this, and then asked if she could really try it. The Marquise said that she would bring her a clean spoon. Then she gave her the pudding and said that she had poured caramel syrup on top of it. The lady decided to try it too and realized that it smelled a little like jasmine. And since there was cream and milk, the taste was too simple. And at that time she thought that this pudding didn't work out, and she wondered what was with the caramel. And then she asked the girl how it tasted. The little lady replies that it is very tasty, because sweet caramel and delicate pudding go very well together, and she thinks that everyone will like this dessert. Hearing this, the main character thought that she hadn't said anything about the floral scent, and that it was probably interrupted by the strong smell of caramel, and she thought that she could try fruit instead of cream. Erin asks the girl if she has any fruit from the southern lands, then she says that dried fruit and nuts will do as well. The girl replies that there were fruits she had never seen, but no one bought them, and they were most likely thrown out. The Marquise asks if they were white. The little lady replies that they were brown, and she supposes that they must be tasteless. At this time, the main character thought that she knew that they were not so easy to get. When the little girl left, the Marquise thought that she should take up dessert again. Ian's calling her, and she remembered that he was supposed to come by today. The girl asks what the guy is holding in his hands. He replies that it is a small snack because he thought that she had not had lunch yet. At this time, the main character thought that she really hadn't eaten anything since the morning because she was busy with desserts. Erin suggests the guy to come in quickly and then touches him, but suddenly she sees the same dark forest that she saw in the shop and then asks what's wrong with him, and she wonders what hurts him. Ines tells Erin to get away from him, then he writhes in pain and falls to the floor. At this time, the girl does not understand what is happening. Suddenly, the main character saw that the guy was bleeding from his shoulder, and at that moment she thought that maybe the monster's poison caused the attack, and she understands that his condition has become worse than it was before, because his wound has become bigger than it was. The girl does not understand why this disease is progressing so quickly. After all, she understands that everything was fine, and then suddenly everything got worse. The Marquise understands that it is not the time to guess, and first of all, she must hide him, and then she closes the door because she understands that if they find out that he is poisoned with the poison of monsters, then the people from the temple can seize him and sentence him to death. Suddenly, the poison embraced the girl's hand and then slowly disappeared. At this time, the main character does not understand what happened, and she thinks that the poison in Ainz's body also disappeared. Erin saw something near the wound that reminded her of a black haze, and she thought it was because of the light. The lady reports that she just saw a black forest, then she remembers that she had the same vision in the spice shop, and she doesn't understand why it keeps appearing, and she assumes that the monster's poison is somehow connected to the northern forest. At this time, the main character remembered that she was told that the ingredients for the poison were brought from the north, and she suggests that perhaps these leaves that she bought could help Ainz. Erin thinks she's not sure, but she knows she has no other choice, and when she takes the leaves, she doesn't know how she should use them. The lady took the milk she had left over from the pudding, and then brewed the leaves with it. The Marquise saw that Ainz's condition had worsened, and she realized that if he was left like this, he might die, and then she offered him to drink the mixture she had prepared. The girl understands that he drank, but she did not see any reaction, and she cannot believe that it did not work Iveto, and at this time she really wanted him to open his eyes. Suddenly, the boy's wounds disappeared, and she doesn't understand how it happened, because she heard that there is no medicine against monster poison. She thought that the black leaves might be effective. Erin saw a pattern where the wound was, and she understands that when she touches it, it doesn't hurt, and there are no visions. The girl thought that it was good that they had no side effects on Ainz. However, she did not understand why this appeared. At this time, the emperor asks who left the flowers. The servant replies that Prince Calix arrived this morning. His Highness asks if Raymond has come, and at that moment he understood from his reaction that he has not come yet, and he says that his son does not even remember the day of his father's death. And then he suggests that the priest tell everything honestly about his grandson. The emperor asks if he thinks Raymond still has special qualities. The man says nothing has changed. Then he asks what's wrong with Miss Erin. His Majesty explains that his grandson kicked her out, and then explains that he tried to apologize to her in every way, but she does not want to listen to him. The emperor says that Raymond thinks he is tormenting him, and then he says that it would be good to tell him everything, but he cannot do this until the qualities of the heir appear in him. Suddenly, His Majesty saw a laid table, and then he asks the priest what it is. At this time, Serena greets the head of the empire, and the priest explains that he knows nothing about it. The lady says that she heard that he had missed a meal to come to their temple, so she prepared a feast. Then she claims that her skills are not enough, but asks him to taste the food that was prepared with all his heart. The emperor turns to the priest and says that this is a sacred place, and then he asks how it was possible to let an unholy maiden in here. Uslishal, it was the lady who thought that he was talking about her, and she doesn't understand whether her relationship with Raymond is defiling her. Serena turns to His Majesty and says that he has disliked her for a long time, and then asks why, and she would like to know the reason. The lady asks if this is all because of her low birth. Then she claims that for the last 7 years, she has tried her best to serve Prince Raymond. Serena says that as soon as he gives his consent, she, like Miss Erin, and even better than her, will try to fulfill her duties and take care of palace affairs. Hearing this, the emperor was surprised and then asked what kind of nonsense she was talking about. His Majesty says that neither her origin nor her abilities matter, and then he claims that she grew up in wealth, but she wanted to become Raymond's mistress, and the whole world knows this fact, and he does not understand how such a woman can be made empress. Serena claims that he says she can't be his wife because she's been by his side all these years. The emperor orders the servant to take her away and not let her in here. Hearing this, the lady turns to His Majesty and, screaming, says that he did not even give her a chance, and then she says that she has loved Prince Raymond since childhood and does not understand why he chose her over me. The emperor claims that she could not have claimed this position from the very beginning, and then suggests abandoning this idea. When Serena was taken away, His Majesty thought that she was an annoying girl and did not understand how his grandson could live with her. The emperor believes that he has been raising him as the future heir to the throne since childhood, but he constantly does nothing but disappoint him, and this concerns his right, his heritage, and his marriage. Ingru asks what Prince Raymond will do without Miss Erin. The emperor claims that the Duchess must be returned. His Majesty says that Raymond said he would never return to the palace again, but he understands that he needs Aaron. At this time, Ainz is thinking that he needs to run away quickly because he understands that if it catches him, he could die. The guy understands that he needs to ask for help, but they don't know who to ask, and he thinks that in the end he will only cause trouble. Ainz opened his eyes and saw Aaron. The Marquise says that it is thank God that he woke up. The young gentleman asks in surprise where he is. The main character explains that after he lost consciousness, she and Melly dragged him to her room, and then she says that no one knew about the wound, so he doesn't have to worry, and she washed his shirt because it was dirty. Hearing this, Ainz says that he has caused her a lot of trouble. Then he claims that he is in her debt again. Aaron says nothing bad happened. Then she says she thought he was having a nightmare, so she tried to wake him up. The main character asks how he is feeling and then asks how his wound is. The guy says that he doesn't feel anything now, and when he opened his shirt, he saw that the wound had disappeared and only a mark remained. Aaron says it's a long story. Then she says she gave him black leaves, which made his wound heal, and a mark form in its place. The girl wonders why it suddenly got worse early. Ainz explains that he doesn't know, but he definitely remembers that it was healing, and then he says that there are no more. But even he has never heard of such a sign. The main character asks the guy if he will stay with her for a while, and then it is said that she is worried because she understands that suddenly he may have an attack of words. And so she thinks it would be better if he stays with her until they are sure that he is really okay. The Marquise informs that she has a spare room, and it is a little small, but there should be no inconvenience. Aaron says she's worried because she gave him those leaves, and she thinks that might be the issue. Ainz takes the girl's hand and then asks her why she thinks that he says that without her help, the poison would have already killed him, and on the contrary, he is already very grateful. The young gentleman says that if his presence makes her feel better, he will stay, and then suggests that she not reproach herself so much. The guy reports that the mark on his body does not cause any discomfort, and he would even say that some pleasant sensations appeared. Aaron says that the pharmacist who sold her the medicine brought it from the north, and she thinks that what happened may be connected to the Black Forest, and the leaves may be part of the medicine, and she will find the pharmacist and ask him about it. Ainz says he is sure that she will live a more peaceful life if she finds out the truth about the black leaves. Hearing this, the main character thought that Ainz was probably scared too, but he cared about her first. The guy says he's going home for a while. The girl asks why. Ainz explains that he will have the servants restore the house with the greenhouse, since its presence will not arouse suspicion. The Marquise says that she understands, and then thanks him for thinking about such things. The young gentleman claims that compared to what she has done for him, this is a mere trifle, and then he says that he will return soon, and the girl wishes him a safe journey, and at that moment she thought that she hopes nothing will happen. Aaron thought about the fact that she hadn't been able to tell him something very suspicious, about how when the poison touched her hand, it had disappeared without a trace. She knew she hadn't eaten the black leaves or taken any other medications. She didn't understand why the poison hadn't worked on her. The main character understands that, unlike Ainz, she has no mark on her body, and she understands that this thought is unfounded, and at that time, she thought that maybe the reason for the healing is in her. The next day, the girl thought that she was so worried about Ainz, but she realized that today everything was fine, since he really got better and so she could return to trading. When she entered the cafe, she did not understand where everyone had gone. Suddenly, she saw a note written by Einzebek, and he indicated that he had gone to Boyard Street and would be back soon. At this time, the main character thought that he went to look for a pharmacist, and Melly was probably already preparing drinks, and she realized that in this case, it was time for her to deal with desserts. Aaron thought she'd probably start with scones and strawberry cream pie, and then she remembered that she had some chestnut paste left over from the last time, so she decided to make a Mont Blanc out of it. And while the almond dough base was baking in the oven, she mixed whipped cream with chestnut paste and made the filling. The girl understands that it is much easier to work with ready-made ingredients, and she would have spent a long time making the paste herself. She filled the ready-made molds with cream, and the Mont Blanc is ready.